Story 1. At Christmas, my mom handed my 7-year-old daughter an empty box and said, "We don't give gifts to a motherless child." Everyone laughed. I didn't. That night, I canceled their mortgage, froze their cards, and pulled back $62,283 in transfers. Hey Reddit, I'm not usually the type to post, but after what went down last Christmas, I've been sitting on this story for months and figured maybe it's time to share it. Let's just say it involves an empty gift box, a messed up family, and a lesson I should have learned years ago about who really deserves your loyalty. I, 39 male, single dad, and I make good money running projects for a construction company. I've got a nice house, a paid-off truck, and a 7-year-old daughter named Lily, who's basically the best part of me. She's smart, funny, and has this way of asking questions that makes you feel stupid and proud at the same time. It's been just the two of us since her mom, Mia, passed 5 years ago. Car accident. I don't talk about it much. The day it happened, something in me kind of reset. I stopped caring about anything that wasn't her. Every decision I've made since then, work, home, life, it all circles back to Lily. She's my entire reason for existing. My family doesn't really get that. They say they do, but they don't. See, my parents aren't bad people on paper. They've just got this way of making everything about themselves. My mom's the type who thinks she's the glue holding everyone together, but really she's just holding the mirror. Everything she does, even family stuff, has to look a certain way. Polished, traditional, picture perfect. My dad mostly nods along to whatever she says. He's not mean, just one of those guys who thinks silence equals wisdom. Then there's my brother, Ashton. Golden boy since birth. Doesn't matter what he screws up. Mom calls it finding himself. He's 35. Job hops like it's a hobby. Still calls dad when his car needs repairs. I've lost count of how many temporary loans I've given him. And Hillary, my sister. The type who posts family is everything on Facebook while complaining about her husband behind his back. She's married with 2 kids and a weird superiority complex because her husband sells insurance and wears loafers. I've always been the reliable one. The Henry will handle it guy. Mortgage short? Call Henry. Need to co-sign a car? Henry's got good credit. Power about to get cut off? Henry'll pay it, and will pay you back next week. Spoiler, they never do. I used to tell myself it didn't matter. I make good money, and I don't mind helping family. That's what I believed, until recently. The truth is, my family never really liked my wife. They weren't cruel about it, not openly. It was more like a constant drizzle of judgment. Little comments at dinners like, "She's very quiet, isn't she?" Or, "You've really changed since you met her." They said it with smiles, but I always caught the undertone. Like Mia was too calm for them, too put together. Still, we kept the peace. She'd bake something for family gatherings, sit politely through Hillary's bragging, nod along to Mom's suggestions. She always tried. I think that's what hurt the most. She tried so hard to be liked. When she died, I thought maybe that would change things, that they'd realize how much she meant to me. Instead, it just made things weird. My mom kept saying, "At least you have Lily? She's your piece of Mia." Like she was talking about a souvenir, not a person. I didn't argue. I never do. I just worked harder, spent more time with Lily, and let them stay in the background. Then, last week, Mom called. She said she was hosting Christmas this year, like always, and wanted me and Lily to come. Her exact words were, "It's been too long, and Lily should be around family. She needs that." Part of me wanted to say no. I hate those gatherings. They're loud, fake, full of forced hugs and bragging contests. But Lily overheard me on the phone, and her face lit up like it was Christmas already. She started asking if she'd see her cousins, if Grandma would like the card she made, if Santa would come there too. So I said yes. Because try saying no to a 7-year-old who's missing the kind of Christmas memories you can't give alone. The next few days were chaos. Work deadlines, traffic, trying to find gifts that didn't feel like generic dad presents. But Lily was in her element. She picked out a sparkly red dress, wrapped her own little gift for Grandma, a hand-drawn picture of the family, including Mia, which I didn't have, the heart to tell her might get awkward, and kept humming Christmas songs around the house. She even asked if she could bake cookies like her mom used to. I helped her, even though I suck at baking. We burned the first batch, laughed about it, and she said, "Mom would have saved the middle ones." That one hit hard. I remember looking at her that night and thinking, maybe it won't be so bad this year. Maybe they'll surprise me. I should have known better. My family has this way of pretending they're normal, just long enough for you to let your guard down. Then they remind you exactly who they are. The morning of Christmas Eve, Mom sent a text in her usual tone. Don't be late. Family starts at 2. Dress nice. Not, can't wait to see you. Not, Lily must be excited. Just, dress nice. That was my first red flag. Still, I told myself it was fine. I put on a suit, made sure Lily looked perfect in her red dress, and we drove over. She was buzzing with excitement the whole ride, asking if Grandma's tree was bigger than ours, if her cousins would like her drawings, if Grandma would smile when she opened the card. I didn't have the heart to tell her the truth. My mom doesn't do smiling unless someone's watching. I didn't know it then, but that was the day everything changed. That was the day my family showed me exactly what kind of people they really were. The moment I stepped through that front door, I could tell everything was for show. My mom greeted us with her usual stiff smile, more like a job interview than a hello. Well, look who decided to show up, she said, giving Lily a once-over like she was inspecting an outfit instead of greeting her granddaughter. Lily held out her little envelope with the handmade card inside. Merry Christmas, Grandma! Mom took it, glanced at it like it was a receipt, and said, How thoughtful, before setting it on the counter without opening it. My dad gave me a half hug, patted my back twice, and disappeared toward the living room where football was on. Lily stayed close to me, smiling shyly. She didn't complain, didn't fidget, just tried to fit in. Look at her, Mom said after a while, loud enough for everyone to hear. So quiet, just like her mother. That tone, light, sweet, but somehow sharp enough to cut. I felt it. Lily didn't understand the dig, thankfully. She just smiled politely and nodded like she thought it was a compliment. The gift opening started after dinner. Everyone gathered in the living room. Hillary's kids went first. New toys, matching scooters, each gift bigger than the last. Everyone clapped and laughed and took pictures. Then, silence. Mom clapped her hands. Now, before we finish, we've got something special for our little Lily. Lily's eyes lit up. She straightened her back and brushed down her dress. I smiled at her, trying to stay relaxed. Mom and Hillary dragged out a huge shiny red box from under the tree. It was almost as tall as Lily. The whole room watched as they set it in front of her. Even Dad turned down the TV. Lily looked up at me like she was asking for permission. I nodded. Go ahead, sweetheart. Lily tore into the wrapping paper, giggling as the shreds fell around her. When she got to the box, she opened the lid and froze. It was empty. The room went weirdly quiet for a second. Then Hillary laughed. A short, nervous sound. Oh, Mom, she said, trying to play it off. My dad shifted in his chair. Margaret, he said quietly, like even he knew she'd gone too far. But Mom smiled, that same tight-lipped smile she always wore when she thought she was teaching someone a lesson. We don't give gifts to a motherless child, she said, matter-of-factly. It's bad luck. Everything in me went still. Lily blinked. Her lips trembled. What? Mom shrugged. It's just how it is. Don't take it personal, sweetie. Then Mom looked down at Lily, still crying quietly, and said in that calm voice that always made my skin crawl, You even look like your mother when you cry. That was it. Something inside me snapped clean in half. You think that's funny? I said, my voice low. Nobody answered. You think humiliating a 7-year-old is something to laugh at? Henry, my dad started, holding up a hand like I was a child about to interrupt. No, I cut him off. Not this time. I stood up. Every word that came out of my mouth was shaking but sharp. You people talk about family like it means something, but the truth is, you wouldn't know love if it punched you in the face. You hated Mia because she didn't worship you, and now you're punishing her daughter for existing. Mom's smile faltered. Don't be dramatic. I laughed, but it wasn't nice. Dramatic? You just told a child her dead mother makes her bad luck. You're disgusting. Ashton stood, trying to play mediator. Bro, relax. She didn't mean it like that. Then how did she mean it? I turned on him. You sit there, letting her say that garbage, pretending you're better than me while I've been bailing you out for years. You think I don't notice you playing broke while you buy new rims? Ashton opened his mouth, then shut it again. Hillary crossed her arms. You're overreacting. Mom was joking. Joking? I looked down at Lily, her little hands gripping her empty box, her face red and wet. If that's your idea of a joke, you all need serious help. Henry, please, Dad said. Don't make a scene. I stepped closer to him. A scene? You want to see a scene? Watch me walk out that door and never come back. That's the only scene you're getting. I crouched down next to Lily, wiped her tears, and said quietly, We're leaving, baby. You don't need people like this. She nodded, sniffling, still clutching the stupid box. As I carried her toward the door, Mom called out, Oh, stop it, Henry! You're embarrassing yourself. I turned around and looked straight at her. No, Mom. You did that for me a long time ago. And then I walked out. Lily buried her face in my shoulder. I could feel her shaking. I kept walking until we reached the truck, set her in the seat, and buckled her in. She finally spoke, her voice small. Daddy, why did Grandma say that? Did I do something bad? I swallowed the anger clawing up my throat. No, sweetheart. You didn't do anything wrong. Some people just mistake cruelty for strength. She didn't answer, just stared out the window as I started the truck. Driving away, I looked in the mirror and saw the house glowing behind us. Bright lights, laughter, fake warmth. I realized it had never been home. Not even close. That was the last time we ever set foot in that house. And it was the first night I started planning how to make sure they'd never have the power to hurt us again. When we got home, the first thing Lily did was go straight to her room. She didn't say a word, just crawled into bed. Her little shoulders shook every few seconds. I stayed there for a long time, just staring at the ceiling. I'd been through plenty of crap from them over the years, but this one hit different. It wasn't about me this time. It was about Lily. That was the part that broke something in me. The more I thought about it, the more pieces started clicking together. All those subtle digs about Mia over the years. Mom's innocent comments like, she never really tried to fit in, or you've changed since she came around. Dad agreeing with that blank look like he didn't even have his own thoughts. At the time, I used to think they just didn't understand her. But now, sitting there, it was obvious. They never wanted to. They resented her because she didn't play the same games they did. Mia didn't gossip. She didn't brag. She just quietly built a life with me and didn't need them. That's what bothered them. And now they were doing the same thing to Lily because she looks like her mom. By 2 a.m., I'd made up my mind. I wasn't going to yell, argue, or explain myself ever again. I was done paying for their mistakes, done trying to earn their approval. No more guilt, no more money, no more pretending. I opened my laptop and started digging through my records. I've always kept everything organized. Years of bank statements, transfer receipts, loan confirmations. I started clicking through folders one by one. $500 to Ashton for car repairs. $2,000 to Mom for medical bills. $1,400 mortgage payment labeled temporary help. The list went on. I added it up, then added it again because I didn't believe the number. $45,000 I'd quietly poured into them over the years. And for what? So they could humiliate my daughter? So my mom could tell people she raised a good man while treating me like an ATM? They were going to learn what it's like to live without me holding everything together. The next morning, while I was making breakfast, my phone buzzed with a call from an unknown number. Normally, I ignore those, but I answered out of habit. Henry? It was my cousin Melissa. She sounded hesitant. Hey, just giving you a heads up. Your mom's been talking. I already knew this was going to be good. Talking about what? She's been telling everyone you screamed at her that you ruined Christmas. Said you scared the kids and that Lily threw a tantrum. I actually laughed. A short, humorless sound. Of course she did. Melissa sighed. You know how she gets. But just so you know, she's spinning it like you've changed since Mia died. That you've become bitter and ungrateful. She told Aunt Carol you embarrassed the family in front of the neighbors. I rubbed my temples. So I defend my daughter and somehow I'm the villain? Yeah, Melissa said quietly. You know how they are. Just thought you should hear it from me first. That phone call sealed it. It wasn't just about money anymore. They were actively trying to ruin my reputation, like they always did when they couldn't control me. This time, though, it wasn't going to work. I thanked her, hung up, and just sat there for a bit. The anger didn't even rise this time. It just flattened out. They weren't toxic and private anymore. Now they were trying to spread it like a virus. I opened my laptop again. This wasn't just about cutting them off now. This was about protecting myself and Lily. I started taking screenshots of every payment I'd ever made for them. Every loan agreement. Every text that said, I'll pay you back. Every email where Mom thanked me for saving us again. It wasn't about revenge. It was about evidence. If they wanted to play dirty, I'd play smarter. As I worked, I thought back to something Mia once said to me. It was right after we bought our first house together. We'd been arguing with my mom about the down payment because she thought it was unfair. I didn't buy near their neighborhood. Mia had told me, some people don't want to see you free, Henry. They want to see you useful. I didn't get it then. I do now. By the time the sun came up, I had a folder labeled Proof sitting on my desktop. Every document, every receipt, every piece of evidence that showed how much I'd given and how little I'd gotten back. The gossip didn't matter. The lies didn't matter. What mattered was cutting the cord once and for all. and I knew exactly how I was going to do it. That morning, I opened my banking app and started the process. Every account, every connection, every autopay. They wanted to talk about family loyalty? Fine. They were about to find out what loyalty looks like when you've drained it dry. The next morning, I woke up early. It wasn't one of those restless, angry mornings either. I felt rested, sharp, clear, like I'd finally sobered up from a 15-year-long family hangover. Lily was still asleep, drooling on her stuffed rabbit, so I made coffee and opened my laptop. I wasn't doing this in a rush. This was going to be surgical. 2 full days of quiet precision. First target, the mortgage. 6 years ago, my parents couldn't qualify for refinancing because Dad's credit was in the dumpster. They'd called crying, saying they'd lose the house. So I co-signed. Just for a few months, Mom had said. You're our safety net. Safety net turned into me quietly making payments whenever they forgot. I logged into the lender portal. The balance popped up. $167,000 remaining. My name was listed second. I clicked through the payment history. My bank account name showed up on more lines than theirs. That was enough evidence for me. Turns out they were already 3 months behind before I even stopped paying. My deposits had just been covering up the late fees. I deleted my card from their payment system and sent the lender an email saying I wouldn't be covering their payments anymore. If they wanted me off the loan, they'd have to refinance it in their own names. I wasn't their safety net anymore. I attached proof of the payments I'd made and asked them to remove me as an authorized payer on the account. If they wanted me off the note, they could refinance. I hit send. 1 connection severed. Next up, utilities. 4 years ago, their power nearly got cut off. My mom had called crying again, saying she couldn't let her grandkids freeze. I'd set up autopay without her even asking. It cost me $160 a month, every month since. I logged into the electric and water company accounts, found my name buried under authorized payer, and canceled both. The confirmation emails came instantly. I took screenshots and saved them in a folder called Proof. It was strangely satisfying, like unclogging a drain you didn't realize had been blocked for years. Then came the credit cards. I'd added Mom and Dad as authorized users on 2 of my cards years ago for emergencies. I remember the day I did it. Mom crying, saying she just needed one for groceries. Groceries turned into online shopping sprees, restaurants. I scrolled through 6 years of statements, line by line. Each one made my chest tighten less and less. I took their names off my cards, froze both accounts, and ate the old balances. Lesson learned. Still, I sent them a neat little spreadsheet showing every dime they'd run up. Petty? Maybe. Satisfying? Definitely. I requested new card numbers for myself so they couldn't sneak back in. Another line cut. Then came Ashton's car loan. 2 years ago, he'd shown up at my house saying, "Bro, I just need a cosigner." I'm starting fresh. You'll see. He made 3 payments total before it became my problem. I told the lender I wouldn't be covering Ashton's missed payments anymore. They basically said, "That's between you and him. Fine by me." A few months later, the car got repoed in front of his apartment. My credit took a small hit, but watching that tow truck drive off, worth every point. After that, there wasn't anything to handle. Just let the repo and late marks land. By the afternoon, my desktop looked like a war room. Screenshots, emails, PDFs, all neatly labeled. I wasn't angry. I wasn't sad. I just felt free. For the first time in my life, I wasn't waiting for their approval or forgiveness. I was finally making decisions for me and for Lily. I pulled up my bank app, opened a new savings account, and labeled it Lily's Future. Every dollar that used to vanish into their bills was going there now. I set up an automatic transfer for the first of every month. It wasn't much to start, $1,200, but it felt good knowing where it was going this time. After 2 days, I had receipts for everything. Mortgage, cut. Utilities, cut. Credit cards, cut. Car loan, cut. Each step brought a kind of calm I didn't know I needed. I leaned back in my chair and looked around the living room. For years, I'd been surrounded by quiet guilt. Photos of family trips I paid for, gifts I bought, obligations I never asked for. I started packing them away, not out of hate, but because I didn't need reminders of people who only loved me when my wallet was open. As I boxed them up, I thought about all the times I'd ignored my gut, like when Mom accidentally left Mia out of the family portrait, or when Ashton called Mia too fancy because she had a degree, or when Hillary told me, "You got lucky she settled for you." At the time, I'd laughed it off, told Mia, "They don't mean it." But now I realized they always meant it. They just never expected me to notice. When school started back up in January, I made her favorite pasta and listened while she talked about her new art project. She smiled again for the first time since Christmas. That little smile was all the proof I needed that I was doing the right thing. After she went to bed, I sat at my desk and double-checked everything. My proof folder was complete. I backed it up to a flash drive in the cloud. If they tried to twist the story again, I'd be ready. Around midnight, I got an email notification from the mortgage lender. We've noted your request to stop voluntary payments. Cosigner removal requires refinance or assumption. Account remains delinquent. Delinquency. That word made me grin. For years, I'd been the reason they stayed afloat. Without me, the cracks were already showing. I felt like a man finally protecting his own family. The only one that mattered. Mia used to tell me, "You can't save people who drown on purpose." I finally understood what she meant. They'd spent years pulling me under. And now, I'd finally learned how to swim without them. 3 days passed before the storm hit. I knew it was coming. The silence was too loud. No calls, no texts, no guilt trips from Mom. It was the kind of quiet that meant something ugly was brewing. It happened on a Thursday afternoon. I was making grilled cheese for Lily when someone started pounding on the door. Not knocking, pounding. The kind that rattles the hinges. Lily looked up from her drawing. "Daddy, someone's mad." She wasn't wrong. I peeked through the peephole. Mom, Dad, Ashton. All three of them standing on the porch like a knockoff mob family. Mom's face was as red as ornament. Dad's jaw clenched. And Ashton, well, he looked like he'd just gotten evicted from his own ego. I opened the door halfway, keeping the chain lock on. "What?" Mom jumped right in. "The mortgage company called us. They said the payment didn't go through, and the utilities got disconnected this morning." "What did you do?" I leaned against the doorframe, calm as ever. "I stopped paying for people who think humiliating my daughter is okay." Her mouth dropped open like she couldn't believe I said it. "You can't just— Henry, that's not how family works." I raised an eyebrow. "Funny. I thought family didn't humiliate 7-year-olds at Christmas." Ashton scoffed behind her. "Oh, come on, man. You're still stuck on that?" "It was a joke." I smirked. "A joke? You call an empty gift box and a motherless child speech a joke? Maybe next year you'll light a tree on fire for laughs?" Mom threw her hands up. "You're being ridiculous." "I told you, it was taken out of context." "Out of context?" I cut her off. "You looked my daughter in the eye and told her she didn't deserve a gift because her mom died. What context makes that okay?" Dad finally spoke, his voice booming like he still thought he had authority. "That's enough, Henry. You're crossing a line." I laughed. "The only line I crossed was the one I drew between my family and your chaos." Ashton stepped forward, puffing up his chest. "You think you're better than us now, huh? Just because you make good money?" I didn't move. "No, Ashton. I think I'm smarter for not wasting mine on people who treat me like a wallet with legs." Mom's eyes narrowed. "We're still your parents." "Then start acting like it," I said flatly. "Parents don't leech off their kids. They don't tear down their grandkids for sport." Dad jabbed a finger at me. "You're going to regret this, boy. You think you can just walk away from your family?" I gave a small laugh. "You can't walk away from something that was never there." That shut him up for a second. Mom's voice cracked like she was switching tactics. "Henry, please. You know we're not perfect, but we need help right now. The house," I interrupted, "was my safety net, remember? You begged me to co-sign. I covered your missed payments. I saved your credit. And now that I stopped, you want to call me selfish? You're destroying us," she shouted. "No," I said, calm as ever. "I just stopped holding you up." Ashton stepped closer, trying to stare me down. "You really think you can live your life without family? Who's going to be there for you when things fall apart?" I tilted my head. "You mean like I've been there for all of you?" Newsflash. I already did the whole carrying the family thing. Didn't work out great for me. Mom's face twisted into something between anger and disgust. "You've changed, Henry." "Yeah," I said, smiling a little. That was the point. For a second, nobody said anything. Just the sound of my fridge humming in the background and Lily's pencil scratching at her drawing in the next room. Then Dad snapped, "You're not welcome in this family anymore." I grinned. "You can't cut off someone who doesn't need you." That hit harder than anything I'd said before. Dad's face went red. Mom gasped like I'd cursed in church, and Ashton muttered something I didn't catch. I started to close the door. "You guys should probably go pay those bills before it gets dark. It's cold out there." Mom tried one last shot. "Lily will grow up thinking her father turned his back on his own parents." I stopped halfway through shutting the door and looked her dead in the eye. "No, she'll grow up knowing her father protected her from people who confuse cruelty with tradition." Then I closed the door. Slowly. firmly, locked it. Their muffled voices echoed through the porch, shouting, blaming, calling my name. But I didn't move. After a while, I heard footsteps fading down the driveway. Silence returned like a blessing. I walked back into the kitchen. Lily was sitting at the table, coloring a picture of a house with a big sun and two stick figures holding hands. Me and her. No one else. She looked up. Who was that? Just some people who forgot how to knock politely, I said with a small smile. She giggled, satisfied with that answer, and went back to coloring. We spent the rest of the night like that, drawing, talking, laughing a little. It felt normal, peaceful. My phone lit up on the counter. 5 missed calls, 3 voicemails. I deleted them without listening. And for the first time, I was finally protecting the right people. I knew it was only a matter of time before their world started falling apart. When it started with a notice in my inbox from the mortgage lender, pre-foreclosure proceedings initiated. I wasn't supposed to get that email anymore, but my name was still tied to the account, so copies came my way. I stared at it for a second, then deleted it. Their problem now. Then came the chain reaction. Utilities shut off. Mom's credit cards declined at the grocery store. Ashton's car repossessed in broad daylight, from what a cousin told me. Hillary's husband, who's always acted like he's too classy for drama, finally cracked when my parents showed up asking to stay for a week. That week turned into a month, and by the second week, Hillary's husband had packed a bag and went to his brother's house. Word spread that Hillary was losing her mind, trying to juggle her kids, her freeloading parents, and Ashton sleeping on the couch playing video games all day. Meanwhile, I was fine. Better than fine. I'd stopped checking their calls after the first few days. My voicemail was full of Mom's guilt-ridden messages. Henry, you can't do this to your family. Your father is sick with stress. You're turning Lily against us. That last one made me laugh. The woman who told my daughter she didn't deserve a gift because her mother died was now claiming I was teaching her to hate them. Yeah, sure. But the real kicker came when Melissa, my cousin, called me again. She started with, "Hey, just a heads up again. Your mom's been making the rounds." I sighed. "What's she saying this time?" "She's telling everyone you're brainwashing Lily," Melissa said. "That you're making her think the family's evil, that you're isolating her." I rubbed my face, trying not to laugh. Right. Because needing therapy after your grandma humiliated you at Christmas is definitely brainwashing. Melissa lowered her voice. Look, people were believing her at first. You know how she is. She can cry on command. But then I told them what really happened. I leaned back in my chair, stunned for a second. Melissa, that must have caused a war. Oh, it did, she said, half laughing. Your mom lost it. Aunt Carol called me a liar, but I told her to go ask Hillary's kids. They saw it too. After that, the sympathy kind of died out. That was the first time in years I actually smiled about a family conversation. Thanks, Mel. You didn't have to do that. The fallout spread faster than I expected. Within a month, Mom's friends stopped defending her. People started whispering. Hillary stopped posting family-first photos on Facebook. Ashton was seen taking the bus to his job at a tire shop, which, ironically, he quit a week later. Meanwhile, Lily was doing better. She started smiling again, sleeping through the night, drawing pictures that didn't make my chest ache anymore. One evening, a letter showed up at my door. No return address, but the handwriting was familiar. Mom's. I almost tossed it without reading, but curiosity won. It started just how I expected. We only ever wanted what was best for you. Then came the guilt. You've changed since Mia passed. You used to be kind. Then the manipulation. Lily needs her grandparents. You're ruining her childhood. And at the very end, the line that made me laugh out loud, if your wife were here, she'd be disappointed in you. I crumpled the letter and threw it straight in the trash. That's when it hit me. They'd never stop trying to control the narrative. Even when faced with their own destruction, they couldn't see the truth. To them, I wasn't a son or brother. I was a resource that ran out. By late spring, the foreclosure finally went through. Honestly, it happened faster than I expected. But looking back, they were already circling the drain before I cut the cord. They lost the house. Ashton moved in with a buddy. Hillary stayed married but barely. And my parents ended up in a small rental outside town. I didn't hear from them again for months. Melissa texted me once after that. They're still blaming you for everything, but everyone else knows the truth now. I told her, good, let them talk. I'm done listening. And I meant it. Because the funny thing about peace is, it's quiet. It's not dramatic. It's not loud. It's just steady. I'd spent most of my life mistaking chaos for love and silence for loneliness. Turns out, silence is peace when it's the right kind. Months went by after everything blew up. Spring came, then summer. Life got simple again. Work, school, home. No guilt, no surprise calls, no fake apologies. Just quiet. Peaceful, steady, quiet. Lily was thriving. Her teacher sent a note saying she was drawing more, laughing more. She even joined the art club. Every time she brought home a messy paint project, I taped it to the fridge like it was the Mona Lisa. And me? I felt lighter. I didn't realize how much mental space my family had taken up until they were gone. My phone didn't buzz at odd hours. My weekends didn't revolve around someone else's emergency. I finally had time to breathe. A few weeks later, when Melissa called me, she sounded half amused, half exasperated. "Your mom's still at it," she said. "Telling people you're living some lonely, sad life." I laughed. "Yeah? Tell her my lonely life includes pancakes, Saturday cartoons, and a daughter who doesn't cry herself to sleep anymore." Melissa chuckled. "You know what's funny? Nobody's buying her act now. Everyone's seen the truth. Hillary barely talks to her. Ashton's broke again. And your parents had to move into some small rental after the foreclosure. That didn't make me happy exactly. It just made sense. You can't build your life on lies and expect it to stand. Let them do what they do," I said finally. I stopped playing referee. And that was the end of that conversation. The months rolled by, and before I knew it, Christmas was around the corner again. The anniversary of the night everything broke. Only this time, there were no invitations, no phone calls, no fake gestures. Just quiet. Christmas morning came, and for the first time in years, I didn't wake up with that heavy pit in my chest. No pressure to perform, no fake family act waiting. Just me and Lily, the smell of pancakes, and some cheesy holiday music playing on the TV. She came running into the living room wearing her Santa pajamas, hair sticking out in every direction. "Daddy! It snowed!" she yelled, pointing out the window. We both stood there watching the snowfall. For a second, it felt like the universe was giving us a clean slate. After breakfast, Lily crawled onto the couch next to me, sipping hot chocolate. Her voice was small when she asked, "Are we going to Grandma's this year?" I shook my head. "No, sweetheart. We're doing our own thing this year." She thought about it for a second, then smiled. "Good. I like it when it's just us." That line hit deeper than anything my mom ever said. I put an arm around her and said, "Me too, kiddo. Me too." We spent the day watching cartoons, building a blanket fort, and eating way too many cookies. No yelling, no judgment, no guilt. Just laughter and calm. At one point, Lily looked up at me with a mouthful of frosting and said, "Mom would like our tree." I smiled. "Yeah, baby." She would not. That was the moment it all came full circle for me. I didn't need a family who tore me down to feel loved. I already had one who looked up to me for protection, for comfort, for peace. The old version of me would have spent Christmas wondering what my parents were doing, if they were okay, if I'd done the right thing. But the new me? I didn't wonder anymore. I knew. Because sitting there with Lily, her head resting on my shoulder, the house warm and quiet, I realized something I'd never felt before. We weren't missing anything. We were finally whole. YouTube just dropped this new hype feature. If you're hooked on this story, smash that hype button. It tells YouTube this video deserves to blow up, and it keeps even crazier stories coming your way. Story 2. Am I the jerk for not going to the wedding of my dad and his affair partner? Back when I was 17, my life took a tough turn because my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer. Sadly, just 2 years after her diagnosis, she passed away. Those years were incredibly hard, and to make matters worse, my dad wasn't around much to support us. He was always buried in work or claimed he had to go on business trips, so my mom's care fell mostly to my aunts and my grandma. Fast forward about 5 months after we said goodbye to my mom, my dad decided it was time to introduce me to his new girlfriend. I was beyond upset. I couldn't hold back and ended up yelling at him. I was shocked by how quickly he seemed to move on. But then, the bombshell dropped. They told me they had been in a relationship for 3 years. That meant, while my mom was battling cancer, my dad was seeing someone else behind her back. All those business trips he said he was going on were actually trips to see his girlfriend. I felt so betrayed and angry that I packed up my stuff and left the house we shared. I decided right then and there I couldn't speak to him anymore. Now I'm 24 years old. The only person from my family I still talk to is one of my aunts, who has always been there for me. A few days after I walked out on my dad, this same aunt gave me a call. She checked in on me and then dropped another bombshell. My dad was planning to marry his girlfriend. She suggested that maybe attending their wedding could help mend things between my dad and me. I was stunned. Why would she think I'd want to attend, knowing what I know? Then, unexpectedly, I heard my dad's voice over the phone. He had been listening to our conversation. I hung up immediately, feeling even more betrayed. I had specifically asked my aunt to keep my life private from my dad, and she had agreed. But then, she texted me, calling me names for my reaction and saying my dad was heartbroken by my words. She even said I should have moved on by now. I didn't want to argue with her since she had been supportive in the past, so I decided to block her. Then, wedding invitations started showing up at my place. My aunt was the only one who knew my address, which meant she shared it, along with my phone number, with other family members. Suddenly, I was getting calls and texts from everyone on my dad's side of the family, trying to convince me to forgive him and come to the wedding. Some even insulted me for refusing. Then, the woman my dad is marrying texted me, trying to justify their relationship by saying she was a friend of my mom's and knew about her cancer. She mentioned my dad was thinking of postponing the wedding, hoping I'd talk to him. But the truth is, I want nothing to do with my dad or his fiancée, no matter how much they try to push it. Despite the pressure from my dad's family, telling me how much better it would be for me to make amends, I'm staying firm in my decision. It's clear now that my dad was never really going to be there for me in the way I needed. It's sad, but I've come to accept it. Now, I'm left wondering, does sticking to my decision make me the jerk in this situation? Am I the jerk for not going to the wedding of my dad and his affair partner? Now for the top comments before reading the update. NTA 6512 says, "Not the jerk. Your dad was unfaithful to your mom during a time when she was very sick, which is a huge betrayal. It's understandable that you're upset and hurt by his actions. It's also completely reasonable that you've decided to take two big steps. One, choosing not to talk to your dad anymore, and two, deciding not to go to his wedding. These are your feelings and decisions, and you've shared them in a clear and calm way. On top of everything, your aunt broke your trust by sharing your contact information with others when you didn't want her to. That's not okay, and it's another reason you're feeling hurt and betrayed. Given everything that's happened, it makes sense that you're thinking about keeping your distance from not just your dad, but your entire family at this point. They haven't respected your feelings or your privacy, which makes it hard to maintain a good relationship with them. Laten says, choosing not to talk to your dad and staying away from the wedding is actually a pretty mature way to handle the situation. It's a lot nicer than showing up at the wedding and waiting for that moment when they ask if anyone has any objections. Imagine standing up in front of everyone and explaining why you think their marriage shouldn't happen because of their past actions. That would be really tough and could cause a lot of drama. Hey, it's important to remember that there's no time limit on how long you're allowed to feel upset or hurt about something. Your feelings are totally valid, and it's up to you to decide how long you need to process those feelings. You have every right to feel the way you do for as long as it takes for you to work through those emotions. Testarossa 13 says, the objection thing has been in any wedding I've been to in the last 50 years. Never ask a question you don't want the answer to. Not the jerk. Tell your father you are treating him like you treated your dying mother. Block everyone who tries to tell you how to feel. Move on and don't look back. J. Luston 829 says, what happened here is way worse than anything the OP is doing by choosing to stay away. The dad didn't just lie and cheat, he basically left his wife to deal with her illness alone while he was off with someone else. Everyone has the freedom to make their own choices, but they also have to deal with the results of those choices. OP doesn't have to do anything more for their dad, especially considering he didn't show much care for their mom when she needed it the most. I'm dealing with cancer myself. It's something that can be treated but not completely cured. The support and love from my husband are what help me get through each day and feel thankful for the life I have. The thought of not having that kind of support during such a tough time is heartbreaking. It's a small comfort to hope that she never found out about the cheating. It's a sad situation all around. Queen Legolas says, not the jerk. Consider blocking everyone involved, including your aunt. Think about changing your phone number too. If there's a way for you to move to a new place without letting them know where you're going, you might want to do that. It sounds like they might try to come and talk to you face to face next. It could also be a good idea to get some security cameras for your place, just in case someone tries to force their way in or cause trouble. Honestly, the way they've all acted is really not okay. Your dad and the person he's with now did something really hurtful, especially considering how close they were to your mom. Imagine asking his partner how she'd feel if she were in a similar situation, dealing with something as serious as cancer, and then being betrayed like that. But then again, it might be best not to even go there. Try not to start conversations with any of them. You don't have to feel bad about keeping your distance. You're just looking out for yourself, and that's totally the right thing to do. Remember, you've got a lot of people rooting for you, and supporting your decision to stand up for yourself. OP responded, saying, "Thanks a lot. Right now, I'm working on getting a new phone number and letting all my friends know about the change. I live in an apartment that's actually pretty safe. The only way someone can get inside is if I let them in or if someone else in the building buzzes them through. Then they have to sign in with the security guard at the entrance. Plus, to use the elevator and get to my floor, you need a special key fob, which I always keep with me. I really hope I won't need to move out because of all this, but I'm keeping my mind open to the possibility, just in case things start to get worse." End of the comment. Now let's move to the mini updates that OP shared. I sent a text to all 39 phone numbers I have for my family members, Calder included. In the text, I explained everything my dad did, and then I blocked all of those numbers. I'm not interested in hearing any of their responses. Now for the first update. First off, I want to give a huge shout out and thanks to everyone who took the time to comment on my original post and to those who sent private messages. Your words and support really helped me feel solid about my choice not to go to my dad's wedding. I've been wanting to share this update with you for a bit, but my job has been keeping me super busy lately. So here's what went down. After I got bombarded with a ton of texts and phone calls from different members of my family, I decided to take a big step. I sent out a detailed message to every family member's phone number I had, laying out the whole story of what my dad did and explaining why I decided to cut off all contact with him. Right after sending those messages, I blocked all those numbers to avoid any backlash. I also changed my own phone number to a new one, but kept the old number active on a spare phone, just in case I needed to collect any evidence if they tried to bother me through unknown numbers. I was kind of expecting something to happen after that, but everything seemed quiet, which made me think maybe that was the end of it. But then, about a week later, something unexpected happened. My aunt's fiancé, who somehow knew exactly when I would be getting home from work, was waiting for me in my apartment's parking lot. I was pretty wary about talking to him at first, but he assured me he just wanted a conversation. He told me that the message I sent stirred up a lot of drama. Apparently, it made some of my cousins, who hadn't known the full story before, start asking tough questions to my dad and his girlfriend. They tried to brush it off or outright deny the accusations at first, but then someone confirmed everything I had said was true. This caused a huge fallout in the family, leading to heated arguments and even some of my cousins deciding they didn't want to go to the wedding anymore. My dad was considering putting off the wedding to try and sort things out with me, but his girlfriend made it clear she would break up with him if he decided to delay their plans. On top of that, the news of what my dad and his girlfriend did started spreading among their circle of friends, who also used to be friends with my mom. This whole situation has really shaken things up, way more than I expected. After I shared the truth about what my dad and his girlfriend were up to, a whole bunch of drama kicked off. Some of my relatives decided they didn't want to go to the wedding anymore after hearing about it. This made my dad's girlfriend super upset, and now she's saying that anyone who talks about the situation isn't welcome at the wedding anymore, and that even includes family members. She's really mad and thinks I stirred up all this trouble on purpose. When I heard she was blaming me, I just had to laugh. Despite all the mess, they're still planning to go ahead with the wedding. Then my aunt's fiancé decided to pay me a visit. He told me about conversations happening in the family, about how it might look bad if I wasn't at the wedding. My aunts thought maybe they could try to smooth things over by talking to me. He didn't think it was a good idea, but my aunt called me anyway, and that's how my dad ended up overhearing our conversation. The fiancé said he came over because he wanted to get the full story from me. I was thankful he came to talk, but I also told him I've made up my mind to stop talking to my aunt, and because he's connected to her, I'd have to cut him off too. He was okay with that and wished me well before he left. I'm not going to sit here and say everything's fine because it's not. I miss having a mom so much, and going through all this has been really hard. Right now, I'm staying with my girlfriend, who's been doing her best to cheer me up. She's been coming up with funny and ridiculous ideas about how we could cause a bit of chaos at the wedding, just to make me laugh. But on a more serious note, thanks to her support and some really thoughtful comments from people online, I'm thinking about starting therapy. I've come to realize I've got a lot of sadness and anger bottled up inside me. The thought of therapy is kind of scary, but I also feel like it could really help me deal with everything I'm feeling. So I just really want to say a massive thank you to everyone who's been supportive and offered kind words and advice. It's helped me more than you know. See you later. End of the update, and now let's move to the comments. Individual_ad_9213 says, "Not the jerk." She has been cheering me up by coming up with absurd ways to ruin the wedding. I can't think of anything that has been more effective than your going public in the way that you did. Eventually, things will calm down. You might consider reaching out to the family once they knew what had happened. defended your choice of not going to the wedding. They're the ones who sought out the truth and remained loyal to you. OKEB says, you're curious about the different ways to really make a statement at the wedding, something that would be unforgettable. Well, here's a pretty bold move. You could actually go to the wedding, and when there's that moment where they ask if anyone has any objections, you could stand up. Then, you could talk about all the bad stuff that happened, all the secrets about the affair, to explain why this wedding shouldn't go ahead. It would definitely catch everyone's attention and make a very clear point. Farsighted 451 says, hopefully they're just having fun making up fantasy scenarios. OP should be million miles from that wedding and just let it ruin itself. Impact Beneficial says, it's pretty funny and kind of strange that she's trying to put the blame on you for all of this. I mean, come on. If she didn't want everyone knowing about her actions, maybe she shouldn't have gotten involved with a guy who was already married. It's really that straightforward. But it seems like some people just don't get it and live in their own little world, thinking they can do no wrong. Anyway, I really hope things turn out great for you and your girlfriend. You both deserve to have a wonderful life together, away from all this drama. I_suggest_therapy 450 says, isn't it just the case? All the original poster did was share what really happened. If just talking about what someone did makes them look bad, well, that's their own fault. It's like when someone does something wrong and then gets mad at you for noticing. It's pretty common to see that families, especially the ones that aren't too great, really don't like it when someone points out the truth. It's like they're okay with what's going on as long as no one talks about it. But as soon as someone, like the truth teller, shines a light on those actions, they become the bad guy in the family's eyes. Pengygirl 1633 says, not thar jerk. Basically, they played a risky game and ended up facing the consequences. Your aunt put you in a situation where you couldn't really win no matter what you did, and that's not your fault at all. It's totally understandable that you're not feeling 100% okay. It sounds like your family hasn't been very supportive or kind to you, but it's really awesome that you have a wonderful, supportive girlfriend by your side, and it's great to hear that you're planning to start therapy. These steps are going to help you a lot. You're definitely going to make it through this tough time. After that, you can lift your chin up and live your life to the fullest, enjoying every moment. Last story. Because I decided we shouldn't spend Christmas with my husband's family, they've started ignoring my husband completely. I made the choice that our family, including me and my husband and our 2 kids, a girl who is 5 and a boy who is 6, shouldn't spend Christmas with my husband's side of the family. Because of this decision, they've now completely stopped talking to my husband. My husband's sister has 2 boys, one is 10 and the other is 9. It seems like every single time we go over to visit them, my kids end up getting hurt in some way. They either come back with bumps and bruises or feeling really sad because they were picked on. This year, I stood my ground and told my husband that I just didn't want to go over there for Christmas. He became really upset by this. He's got a strong bond with his mom and his sisters, a bond that grew stronger after they lost his dad when he was only 10 years old. To make matters more complicated, my mother-in-law shows a lot of favoritism towards my sister-in-law's kids, giving them gifts that are way bigger and more expensive than what she gives to our kids. I used to try not to let it get to me too much when our kids were really little because they didn't notice the difference. But now they're getting older, and they see that the gifts they get from their grandma are nowhere near as nice as what their cousins receive. My husband is worried that if we start skipping out on important family get-togethers like Christmas, it's going to cause problems in the family. But to be honest, I'm not too worried about that. I don't want my kids to grow up thinking of holiday times as moments when they feel unhappy and get picked on. I'm not willing to try to work things out with his family or make any kind of compromise. So, I have to ask, does that make me the jerk here? Now for the top comments before reading the update. Peak Penguin says, if your husband is worried about losing his family, a key question arises. What steps has he taken to address the bullying his children are experiencing? It's important for both parents to advocate for their children's well-being and safety, especially in family settings where they should feel loved and protected. If his family's actions are hurting your children, it's crucial for him to speak up and work towards a solution that ensures your children are treated with kindness and respect. OP responded saying, discussions with his loser sister and loser mother about why 2 children are bullies. Admirable that he cares. I applaud him for trying to help his nephews, but not by using my children as guinea pigs. Bluegreen_1956 says, not the jerk. The gift imbalance is one thing. Being bullied is another. OP responded saying, I never cared about the gifts because his mother never liked me. But I noticed last Christmas that my son was sad. I don't want my children to be sad for any reason. The gift difference is like 20 to 200. Puzzled Pizza 393 responded saying, "That's a huge difference. Good on you for stopping this. Kids will notice. Can't figure out how grandparents think this is appropriate behavior, hurting their own innocent grandchildren." OP responded saying, "I asked once if they could just try to exchange gifts before we arrived, and then only have one gifts for each child in front of my children so they don't notice the favoritism. But my loser mother-in-law started yelling and calling me gold digger. Nobody involved has gold to dig. We are all hardworking people." Day Queen says, "Not the jerk. I wouldn't go and take my children to the zoo before seeing other people again. Tell your husband that he is welcome to go by himself. You'll see him when he gets home. Those boys are going to get worse as they grow up. Save your children from them." OP responded saying he literally said, "Maybe I could go by myself. It is 8-hour drive." Now for the update. So, let me dive straight into what's been going on because I've already talked a bit about my situation in a previous post and some comments. My husband decided he wanted to spend Christmas with his family despite everything. He called them up and let them know he was planning to come by himself this Christmas. While he was on the phone, I could hear his mom in the background, yelling and saying that I was like the devil, messing up their family traditions. But from what I could tell, she didn't actually tell him he shouldn't come. My husband then told me that our kids are too young to really get what's going on, so we could just have our own Christmas celebration when he gets back on the 27th. He set off on an 8-hour drive to see them yesterday, but when he got there, nobody was home. He started to worry and called them several times, but no one picked up. Panicking, he called me. I suggested he text his mom saying he was about to call the police for a wellness check since nobody was answering. That got a quick response. His mom called him back to say they had decided to rent an apartment at a ski resort and had left earlier that day to go skiing for the holidays. He came back home early this morning and tried to start an argument with me, blaming me for not letting our kids be with their family for Christmas. I stopped him right there. I made it clear that I wasn't the one avoiding him and that if he really wanted us to have a happy family life, this was his wake-up call. His family had clearly shown their true colors, demonstrating just how far they were willing to go to exclude and embarrass someone over a disagreement. This weekend turned out to be pretty great, actually. The kids were super excited to see their dad unexpectedly, and we ended up having a Christmas lunch with my best friend and her kids. Since I was planning for us to celebrate Christmas on the 27th, we weren't ready yet, so we decided to make pizza instead, which was a lot of fun. It seems like my in-laws are starting to realize that they might have taken things too far. They've been calling and texting my husband all evening, trying to get in touch. I even overheard his mom crying over the phone. I made it very clear to them that they are not welcome at our place, especially after they planned a trip without telling us, leading my husband to drive all the way to an empty house. I also made it super clear that I want nothing to do with them anymore. Not for me or my kids. We're going to start our own Christmas traditions, ones that are just for our little family and don't include waiting until 2 days later to celebrate. I told my husband it's time to really think about what he wants, to decide how he wants to move forward with his life and figure out what's truly important to him. I'm just tired of having people who let us down in our lives. I'm ready to move on and focus on the people who make us happy. End of the post. Now for the comments, full stack comments. Good for you. Make sure he sticks with whatever decision he makes. Have a Merry Christmas. Lady Pundit adds, "They ignored their own son? It's almost funny how your mother-in-law can do whatever she wants to hurt you. But the moment your husband feels the sting, suddenly everyone makes a big deal out of it. He tries to blame you, which is unfair. It wasn't right for him to leave you and the kids during the holidays, but then he gets upset when he finds himself alone. Gotta love the holiday karma." Ravenwave points out, "It seems like he doesn't see his wife and children as his real family." Exactly. You gave him a choice and he clearly made it, but not in favor of you or the kids. The way he's been treated by his family and now getting ignored by them is just ridiculous. I doubt this drama has ended. It's probably just on pause until next year. Amara says, "Your husband really needs to figure out what's important before he ruins his family. I'm glad you're still managing to have a good Christmas, though. It looks like your mother-in-law is waiting for things to fall apart, assuming that's what's going to happen. She's probably expecting your husband to take the kids over to his parents' house next year. The fact that he hasn't said sorry to you speaks volumes, doesn't it? It's like people don't understand how harmful it is to be around such a self-centered family. Your husband has been dealing with this his whole life, and changing that mindset is going to be tough. It might even require therapy and could take years. In the end, there's a real chance he might still side with his mom." That is it. Thanks for watching. Story 3. On Christmas morning, my mom punished me by giving all my gifts to my step-siblings, donating the console my dad brought me, and saying I embarrassed her. I walked out, and now she's alone. After losing custody, her marriage, and even the stepkids. Hey, Reddit! My mom always acted like life was a competition she had to win. One Christmas, she went too far, and everything blew up. Family, custody, all of it. Before we get into the chaos, let me start from the beginning. I'm Jason, 15. My parents split when I was 11. It wasn't messy like cops and screaming, but it wasn't friendly either. Dad, Mark, moved into a small apartment across town. Mom, Linda, kept the house. It's a split level with a patchy front lawn and a mailbox that leans a little because some delivery van backed into it a while ago. She works at the library. She met a guy named Steve on some dating app, and 2 years later they got married. That's when he and his kids moved in. Steve's got a son, Ryan, who's 14 and into basketball big time. Always wearing those team hoodies, dribbling a ball in the driveway when it's warm enough. Then there's his daughter, Kaylee, 12, who's on her phone nonstop, mostly TikTok. She props it against cups in the kitchen to film herself doing dances. At first, it felt like a sleepover that wouldn't end. Then it turned into just life. My room is the only space that still feels like mine. Bright blue walls, posters of NBA players taped up kind of crooked old squeaky ceiling fan that rattles on the highest setting. The dresser's scuffed from when I dropped a hand weight on it last summer. Carpet's got stains from spilled Gatorade. And there's a dent in the closet door from when a mini hoop dunk went wrong. Mom keeps saying she wants to neutralize the color scheme so the house feels cohesive. I keep telling her no. That's the hill I'm willing to die on. Day to day, it's crowded but not crazy. Ryan's got practice after school most days, so there's the sound of him rushing in and out, shoes squeaking on the tile, basketball bouncing in the garage even when it's freezing outside. Kaylee camps in the kitchen like she owns it. Tripod in one corner, ring light in another. Her phone blasting songs I hear 100 times because she refilms dances until they're perfect. Steve works construction. He comes home beat, leaves his boots by the door and socks everywhere else. Like seriously, everywhere. Couch, hallway, under the dining table once. I try not to comment. Not my problem. Me, I do my homework at this tiny desk wedged between my bed and the window. It's old and one leg's shorter than the others, so it wobbles when I write too hard. Evenings, I play games online with friends from school. Headset on, door shut, keeps me out of the kitchen chaos. Mom's big thing lately is family unity. Matching pajamas every Christmas, game nights with dollar store prizes, group photos where everyone has to stand in height order. It's not like she asks, she tells. Smiles for the camera but glares if you're not cooperating. It doesn't feel like she cares if we're actually having fun. She wants the picture for Facebook, the proof that we're one big happy family. I usually just go along with it. No energy to fight over stuff that doesn't matter. But it's awkward. Like wearing pajamas you didn't pick out while holding a mug of cocoa you don't even want because mom needs the shot for her scrapbook. Dad's different. He sees me on weekends, picks me up in his dented Honda, takes me to open gyms, diner breakfasts, sometimes the batting cages even though neither of us plays baseball. He talks like a regular person, not like he's delivering lines from a movie about parenting. He doesn't care if I wear pajamas or not. He just asks if school's fine, if I need new shoes, if I'm hungry. Basic stuff, but it feels normal. I'm not some perfect kid. My grades are decent, not honor roll, but not failing. I do my chores, trash on Tuesdays, mow the lawn when it's warm, shovel snow when it's not. Mostly I stay in my room, do school, see dad, hang with friends when I can. The thing with Ryan and Kaylee is, we're civil, but not close. Ryan's fine. He talks about basketball nonstop, but he's not annoying about it. He'll nod at me when he walks past my room, sometimes asks if I saw a game on TV. Kaylee barely talks at all, unless she's asking someone to move so she can film. If you're in the kitchen, she sighs, like you're trespassing on a movie set. Steve tries to be friendly in a dad joke kind of way. Calls me big guy, even though I'm shorter than him by a mile. He doesn't push too hard, which I appreciate, but he also doesn't step in when mom goes off about the family stuff. He just lets it happen. That was life before Christmas. Before the dinner, the comment, the gifts, before all of it blew up. The Christmas Eve started early in our house. By noon, mom was in full event planner mode. Cinnamon-scented candles burning in every room, holiday playlist looping the same 5 songs, table set with those red and green paper plates she gets every year because she says washing dishes ruins the holiday vibe. She baked a ham, made green bean casserole with those crunchy onions on top, mashed potatoes so thick the spoon stood straight in the bowl, and some store-bought dinner rolls she brushed with butter, like that made them homemade. Steve carried folding chairs up from the basement, while Ryan dragged in the extra table from the garage. Kaylee stayed glued to her phone until mom snapped at her to at least put out napkins. I was on chair duty too, lining them up so people wouldn't trip over each other when the living room got packed. It wasn't like I had a choice, but I didn't complain. By 5, family started showing up. My grandparents from mom's side first, bundled up in matching puffy coats, then Steve's parents carrying a grocery store pie in one of those flimsy plastic containers. My Aunt Megan came with her 2 kids, both younger than Kaylee, one already sticky from a candy cane before he even took his boots off. Coats piled on the guest bed like always, shoes lined by the door, cold air blowing in every time someone new arrived. The house got loud fast. Holiday movies playing on the TV no one watched, people talking over each other, kids running up and down the short flight of stairs between the living room and kitchen. I stuck to the edges, making myself useful. Took the trash out when the potato peels started spilling over, refilled the soda bottles on the counter, loaded serving bowls and pans into the dishwasher before Mom noticed the sink filling up. Dinner itself went fine. People passed dishes around. Someone spilled gravy. Ryan's basketball coach came up in conversation like 5 times because Steve brings him up any chance he gets. Kaylee scrolled her phone under the table until Mom shot her a look. I kept my head down, ate my food, laughed when people told jokes, nothing dramatic. Mom stood up at the end of the table, holding her glass halfway, like she was about to toast at a wedding. Okay, she said, smiling around the room. Before we wrap up dinner, I just want to say how proud I am of this family. Blended families aren't always easy. It takes love and effort to make everyone feel included, and I'm so grateful we've built new traditions together. Every year we get a little closer. It really warms my heart. People nodded along. My grandma gave a soft, like she was at church. Steve kept smiling that same smile he always had when Mom started talking like this. Big and polite, like someone running for office. Across the table, Kaylee angled her phone toward the tree to snap a picture, while Mom was mid-sentence. Ryan sat there picking at the last bit of ham on his plate. I leaned back in my chair, watching her talk. Same speech as last year. Same matching pajamas, waiting in a bag by the couch. Same forced smiles for pictures she'd stick on the fridge, like proof everything was perfect. When she ended with, "I just love seeing us come together as one family," I said, voice low, not even looking up. Nothing says family like being told to act like one for the camera. Forks paused for half a second. My Aunt Megan smirked into her drink. Somebody at the far end chuckled under their breath. Even my grandma cracked a smile before covering it with her napkin. I just picked up the last piece of roll on my plate and ate it like normal. Mom's laugh came late, tight, a little too high-pitched. "Oh, you," she said, waving her hand like it was no big deal. But her face changed for a second. Quick, but I saw it. Then she clapped her hands. "Okay, pajamas time," she said, all bright again, and handed out the bags like nothing happened. I helped clear plates after that, stacking them so the gravy wouldn't drip on the carpet. Ryan dried while I washed the serving dishes and glasses, loading them into the dishwasher. Steve leaned against the counter, pretending to check his phone, clearly waiting for the work to be done so he wouldn't get roped in. Kaylee filmed a short clip of the tree and the food, flipping her camera fast when she saw me looking. People left in waves after dessert. Leftovers got packed into old butter containers. Kids whined about being tired. Adults dug coats out from the mountain on the bed. Typical holiday exit scene. The whole time, Mom smiled and hugged everyone, thanked them for coming, told them to drive safe. As soon as the door shut behind the last person, she went quiet. Not angry out loud quiet, just that stiff way she wipes the counter like it personally offended her. Ryan disappeared to his room. Kaylee put her earbuds in. Steve scrolled on his phone by the tree until Mom started snapping off lights one by one. I went upstairs, closed my door, and figured that was the end of it. I didn't know Christmas morning was about to get way worse. I woke up to Mom's voice in the hallway. No Merry Christmas, no breakfast smells from the kitchen, just, "Jason, get up, living room, now." It was barely 7 a.m. I threw on a hoodie, headed downstairs. Tree lit, music from the Bluetooth speaker playing soft carols, presents stacked under the branches. Some had my name on them in Mom's curly handwriting. Ryan and Kaylee sat on the couch, still in pajamas, half asleep. Steve leaned against the wall near the TV, arms crossed like he wasn't planning on speaking. He didn't say a word the whole time, probably because it wasn't even his kid and he didn't want to fight Mom in front of everyone. "Stand over there," Mom said, pointing to the corner by the tree. I stood there. She crossed her arms. "You embarrassed me in front of everyone last night. You think that's funny? This morning, you're not opening anything. You're giving your presents to your stepbrother and stepsister." At first, I thought she was bluffing. Then she pointed at the first box with my name on it. I bent down, picked it up, handed it to Ryan. He hesitated, looking at me like he wasn't sure if this was serious, then took it slowly. Next one went to Kaylee, then another to Ryan. One by one. All of them. Hoodie I asked for. Basketball game I'd been hinting at for weeks. Stuff from relatives I hadn't even seen yet. All handed off like I was working a distribution line. Ryan looked more and more uncomfortable every time I gave him one. Kaylee shifted on the couch like she wanted to leave. Mom stood there with her arms crossed, watching like she was checking something off a list. Through the big front window, Mrs. Connolly from across the street walked by with her dog. She slowed down when she saw us through the glass. Me handing gifts to Ryan and Kaylee while Mom stood there. We made eye contact. She didn't smile, just kept walking. I knew before lunch half the neighborhood would hear about it. When the last box was gone, Mom finally spoke. "Maybe next time you'll think before you try to humiliate me," she said. Ryan shifted on the couch. "Maybe he should still get one thing," he muttered, barely loud enough to hear. Mom snapped her head toward him. "Don't start. You two respect me. That's why you get to keep what you got." End of story. Ryan stared at the floor, jaw tight. First time I'd seen him look angry at her. Doorbell rang. Dad stood there holding a Target bag with the new console inside. He'd bought it yesterday and used the bag as lazy wrapping. "Hey, bud," he said, stepping in. "Merry Christmas." Mom's face tightened. "What's that?" "Something he's been wanting," Dad said, handing it toward me. Mom blocked it with her arm. "No, he doesn't deserve it." Dad frowned. "What?" "He humiliated me yesterday," she said. "You don't get to show up twice a month and play hero." Dad kept his voice even. "It's Christmas." "This is my house," she shot back. "My rules." Ryan and Kaylee froze. Steve didn't move from the wall. Dad looked at me, then back at her. "So you took every gift he had, and now this? You serious?" Mom folded her arms tighter. "Actions have consequences." Ryan cleared his throat. "I can give the game back," he said, quiet. "It doesn't feel right." Mom spun on him. "Don't feed the drama," she snapped. "It's done." Ryan leaned back on the couch, lips pressed tight. Dad pulled his phone out and hit record. "Go ahead," he told her. "Say it again." She glared at him. "You heard me." He slid the phone back in his pocket without another word. Mom grabbed the console off the table. "I'm donating this," she said. Dad stepped forward. "Linda, come on." She cut him off. "I'm not letting him think he can disrespect me and still get rewarded." She grabbed her keys, walked out, and shut the door hard. Ryan stared at the floor. "This whole thing's messed up," he muttered. Dad looked at me. "Get your stuff," he said quietly. I went upstairs, grabbed clothes, school Chromebook, charger, sneakers, stuffed them in my backpack. It wasn't careful packing, just fast. By the time I came back down, Mom still wasn't home. Kaylee sat with her knees pulled up, phone in her hands, not recording this time. Ryan didn't look at me, just kept his eyes on the floor like he was thinking hard about something. "Ready?" Dad asked. "Yeah," I said. We left before Mom came back. At Dad's place, he cleared space in the spare room for my stuff. Room was small, walls bare, blinds crooked, but it was quiet. "You hungry?" he asked. "Not really," I said. He nodded. Didn't push. My phone buzzed nonstop. Group chat blowing up. Couple friends texting. "Heard what happened. You good?" Ryan messaged me. She shouldn't have done that. Kaylee posted a picture in the hoodie that was supposed to be mine. Comments already rolling in. Eek. First full day at Dad's apartment felt weirdly quiet. It's a 2-bedroom on the 3rd floor above a laundromat. You can hear the dryers through the floor sometimes, a dull hum like faraway thunder. My room was the empty one. He moved a futon in from storage and said we'd figure out the rest later. That morning, Dad brought in some groceries. Milk, bread, eggs, nothing fancy. He asked if I wanted to paint the walls. I told him maybe green or gray. He said we'd hit the hardware store next week. Around noon, my phone started buzzing nonstop. Group chat messages popping up. Some from friends at school, a few from people I barely talked to. One text read, "Bro, you on TikTok?" It was Kaylee's account. She'd posted a short video of the Christmas tree, and the audio caught the gift handoff. Mom saying, "Hand the next one to Ryan." My, "Okay," Ryan's low voice, and then the front door slam. No faces, but you could hear everything. The caption just said Christmas vibes with a snowflake emoji, but the comments came fast. "Wait, is this Jason's family? That sounded like his mom El Mao. Bro, I know that voice." Somebody asked straight up, "This at your house?" Kaylee didn't reply. Didn't deny it either. Just kept posting her usual videos. That was enough for people to assume it was us. By evening, somebody screen recorded it and threw it on Snapchat. Now the whole school saw it. Ryan texted me. "Didn't know she was recording." My bad. I told him it wasn't his fault. Later that night, my Aunt Megan called Dad. She said Grandma was furious after hearing about the presents. Dad didn't bring the console up again. Apparently, Mrs. Connolly, the neighbor who saw through the window, told half the block before lunch. By dinner, it reached my mom's side of the family too. Grandma called me herself later. Said she didn't understand what my mom was thinking. She told Dad straight up she'd back him if things went legal. Back at Dad's, things stayed calm. He didn't talk about Mom unless I brought it up. Mostly, he asked about homework, if I was hungry, stuff like that. One night, he brought home a cheap bed frame from Craigslist and said we'd pick up a mattress on Saturday. Console can wait, he told me. You need a place to sleep first. I didn't argue. It made sense. That weekend, Grandma came over. She brought a lamp for my room and a bag of groceries Dad didn't ask for. While Dad was unloading the car, she told me straight, if this goes to court, I'm telling them exactly what she did. I nodded. Didn't really know what to say. On Sunday, Ryan called me from the garage at Mom's house. Could hear the basketball bouncing in the background. She's mad at me now too, he said, because I told her I felt weird keeping your stuff. What did she say? I asked. She said I was feeding drama, he muttered. Whatever. I didn't even keep the game. It's still in the box. That surprised me. Where? My closet, he said. Didn't even open it. We didn't talk long because Mom came outside, and he hung up quick. Monday morning, Dad got a call from Mom. He put it on speaker so I could hear. She said, You think you look good letting him run off like that? Everyone's acting like I abused him. Dad stayed calm. Linda, you took every gift he had and donated the console in front of him. You don't know what parenting looks like, she snapped. Maybe, Dad said, but I know what a judge is going to say when they hear the recording. She went quiet, then hung up. That afternoon, Dad showed me the video from his phone. It covered the console argument. Him trying to give me the console, Mom blocking it, telling him I didn't deserve it, and then her storming out. The present handoff part was only on Kaylee's TikTok. He said, I'm keeping this for court. I just nodded. By midweek, Dad called a lawyer. Not doing this back and forth anymore, he told me. We're filing for custody. I didn't argue. By Monday, the TikTok wasn't just on Snapchat anymore. Someone posted it on Instagram with the caption, Christmas canceled, and tagged Kaylee. That's when things at school got bad. At lunch, two guys from the basketball team sat near me and said loud enough for everyone to hear, So you really had to give all your stuff to Ryan? I didn't answer. Another kid laughed. Man, I heard she took the console too. That for real? I threw my trash away and left without saying anything. Ryan texted me that night. People won't shut up about it. Coach even asked if it was true. He wrote another message. Some kid called me the thief of Christmas during warm-ups. Whole team laughed. I asked what he said back. Nothing, he wrote. But this is messed up. I didn't want the stuff in the first place. He added, Steve apparently told Mom maybe the kids wouldn't be dealing with this if she'd just let it go on Christmas. She accused him of taking their side now. Kaylee started turning her comments off on TikTok. She didn't say why, but I saw screenshots in the group chat. People were asking if she kept the hoodie and whether she felt bad. One comment said, You posted the whole thing, then kept the gifts? She never replied. On Wednesday, Mom showed up at school. Not for me, for the principal. I heard about it from a teacher later. She stormed into the office demanding they handle the harassment because lies were spreading. By the time I got home from Dad's, 3 different people had texted saying they heard her yelling about fake stories and ungrateful kids. The principal told her they couldn't control off-campus posts, but they did tighten things at school. Hall monitors started shooing kids away when the video came up in the halls. My counselor checked in with me and Ryan, and the office emailed teachers a reminder about the harassment policy. Online stuff stayed messy. On campus, it calmed down a notch. Ryan called me that night from the garage again. She's mad at me too, he said. Basketball thumped in the background. Because I told her people at school won't stop asking me about it. What did she say? I asked. She said I should ignore it and stop feeding drama, he muttered. Like it's my fault. He told me later that Steve said the whole TikTok thing was embarrassing enough without her making scenes at school. She told him to mind his own business. Next day, one of my teachers pulled me aside before class. You doing okay? He asked. I said yeah. He nodded. Just making sure. My niece goes here. She said she saw some video about your family. Great. Now even teachers knew. Friday night, Dad brought home a sturdier bed frame and a mattress, replacing the futon and the rickety Craigslist frame. I didn't argue. Saturday morning, Grandma came by again. She handed Dad a folder and said, I printed everything before it got deleted. On inside were screenshots from TikTok, Instagram, and a group chat where Kaylee's friends were talking about the Christmas thing. We kept the chain of evidence simple. A screen record of Kaylee's TikTok for the present handoff, Dad's phone video for the console fight, and Grandma's printed screenshots of posts and comments. Copies lived on Dad's phone, my email, and Grandma's folder. So even if something got deleted online, we still had it. Judge should see this, Grandma said. Dad nodded. Sunday evening, Dad told me he scheduled a meeting with a lawyer for the custody case. Video plus this online stuff, he said, tapping the folder, makes it pretty clear what happened. Meanwhile, things at Mom's house kept getting worse. Ryan said people at practice started calling him Grinch Jr. One kid joked loud enough for Coach to hear, "Better not open your birthday presents in front of Ryan." Coach told them to knock it off, but the name stuck. Kaylee started spending weekends at my Aunt Megan's place. Kaylee calls her Aunt Megan too. Ryan said Mom acted like it didn't bother her, but she kept asking Kaylee why she didn't want to stay home. Kaylee just said she liked it better there. Ryan told me she doesn't want to deal with the comments at school or the drama at home. Can't blame her. Monday afternoon, Dad got an email from Mom. She wrote that I should come home because things have calmed down. Dad replied with one sentence. "We'll let the judge decide." That night, Ryan sent me a picture. It was the video game I was supposed to get, still sealed in the box, sitting on his desk. Didn't even open it, he wrote. Feels wrong. Next day, at practice, one of the kids asked Ryan if he gave it back yet. He told them no, because Mom wouldn't let him. Kid said, "Man, your mom's wild." Ryan didn't argue. Wednesday evening, Dad showed the lawyer two files. A screen recording of Kaylee's TikTok, the present handoff, and his phone video, the console argument. Clear as day. Mom telling me to hand everything over. Ryan saying it didn't feel right. Her yelling at him to stop feeding drama. Then her fighting with Dad about the console before storming out. The lawyer said, "This helps. Shows it wasn't just frustration, it was planned." Dad nodded. Exactly. By the end of the week, Dad filed the custody paperwork. Ryan texted me later. She's furious about court. Slamming doors all night. I didn't answer right away. I was looking at the folder Grandma gave Dad. Printouts of comments, screenshots, everything lined up like evidence. It didn't feel like just family drama anymore. But the first custody hearing date came faster than anyone expected. Dad's lawyer sent over a list of what we needed. Video evidence, screenshots, witness statements. Grandma was already on it, printing things like she was preparing for trial herself. Ryan texted me the night before. She's making speeches about how Dad's gonna lose embarrassingly. I asked what that meant. He wrote, "She keeps saying judges hate deadbeat dads, and she's gonna tell them everything about him owing money years ago." Next morning, the courthouse waiting area felt tense. Mom sat across the room with Steve next to her, arms crossed. He looked like he wanted to be anywhere else. Ryan and Kaylee were on the bench beside them, both staring at the floor. Mom spotted me with Dad and Grandma and said loud enough for everyone, "Unbelievable. Dragging children through this because he wants to play Disney Dad on weekends." Steve put a hand on her arm. "Linda, maybe just—" She shook him off. "No, I'm not sitting here acting like I'm the villain." Dad didn't respond. Inside the courtroom, Mom talked fast like she was auditioning for something. Told the judge Dad barely showed up for years, that I was out of control, that she was the only stable parent. Steve sat beside her, eyes on the floor. Dad's lawyer asked about Christmas. Mom waved her hand. "Oh, please." It was one morning. He embarrassed me in front of family. Actions have consequences. The lawyer first played a screen record of Kaylee's TikTok. You could hear Mom directing the gift handoff and the door slam. Then he played Dad's phone video, the console argument from when he arrived, and Mom storming out. Judge raised his eyebrows. "This was on Christmas morning?" Steve shifted in his seat, looking down at his shoes. Mom crossed her arms. "He thinks one sarcastic comment gives him the right to humiliate me? Number, my house, my rules." Grandma shook her head like she couldn't believe what she was hearing. Steve stared straight ahead, jaw tight. Then Mom jumped in. "They're teenagers. They don't understand parenting decisions." I was teaching respect. Judge leaned forward. "By taking every gift on Christmas morning?" Mom didn't answer right away. Then she said, "Maybe I expect some gratitude in my own house." Steve looked over at her for the first time, frowning. Aunt Megan called Dad that night. Said Mom was blowing up the family group chat, calling everyone traitors for taking my side. Megan told her to calm down, and Mom replied, "Easy for you to say when your kid doesn't humiliate you in front of people." Grandma finally left the chat completely. Next week, Mom showed up at my school during lunch. Slammed her car door, marched across the courtyard, told me loud enough for half the tables to hear. You think living with him's gonna be fun? He can't handle you. You'll come crawling back. One of my friends muttered, "What is wrong with her?" as she stormed off. Back at Dad's, the lawyer asked for written statements from Ryan and Kaylee. Both sent them that night. Ryan wrote about being teased at practice. Kaylee wrote about Mom yelling at her for the TikTok instead of caring she was upset. When Dad told me they sent them, I asked why. Ryan texted back, "Because she won't shut up about how she's the victim. I'm over it." Next hearing, Mom tried bringing up old stuff about Dad. Missed birthdays years ago, late payments once when he switched jobs. Judge cut her off. "We're here about current living conditions," he said, "not ancient history." She tried interrupting again, saying, "But he—" Judge raised his hand. "Enough." Mom sat back like she'd been personally attacked. Steve rubbed his forehead like he was tired of being there. After court, she cornered Ryan and Kaylee in the parking lot. "You made me look abusive," she hissed. Ryan said, "You did that yourself." She pointed at him like she was scolding a toddler. "Watch your mouth." He walked off without answering. Kaylee followed him to Steve's truck. Steve looked at Mom and said flatly, "You're not helping yourself." Mom glared at him. "Thanks for the support," she said sarcastically. That night, she texted me paragraphs about how I was turning everyone against her and letting Dad control the narrative. I didn't answer. By the end of the month, Dad said the lawyer felt good about our case. Too many witnesses, too much proof, and Mom couldn't stop making herself look worse every time she opened her mouth. I didn't celebrate yet. But Ryan texted me, "If you get out, good for you. I wish we could too." The last custody hearing happened 2 weeks later. Mom showed up in another loud outfit, bright green this time, like she was trying to prove a point. Steve trailed behind her carrying paperwork. Ryan and Kaylee walked in quietly, sat on the bench near Dad and me instead of next to her. That told the judge a lot before anyone said a word. Inside, Dad's lawyer replayed both clips, the TikTok audio of the present handoff and Dad's video of the console fight. Judge asked if there was any disagreement about its accuracy. Mom started to talk, but Steve cut in softly, "It's real, Your Honor." She whipped her head toward him. "Whose side are you on?" she hissed. The judge cut in, flat and calm. "That's enough." Then came the written statements. Ryan said he felt guilty keeping my gifts, that Mom refused to let him return them, that kids at school teased him so much he stopped going to lunch with the team. Kaylee wrote about the TikTok, how she turned off comments because people were making fun of her family, how Mom yelled at her instead of asking if she was okay. Mom sat there arms crossed like the whole thing was beneath her. Grandma testified last. She said Christmas was supposed to be about family, not control, and she didn't recognize the way Mom acted anymore. Mom interrupted halfway through. "Oh, please, you've always liked Mark better anyway." Judge told her if she spoke out again, she'd be removed. In the hallway during a break, Mom cornered Steve. "You're useless," she snapped. "Just sitting there while everyone attacks me." Steve kept his voice low. "Linda, you're attacking yourself. You don't stop." But she stared at him like he betrayed her. When the judge came back with the decision, Mom sat up straighter like she expected to win. "Temporary full custody to the father," the judge said. "Visitation schedule to be determined later. I'm concerned about the emotional environment at the mother's home." Mom shot out of her seat. "You're punishing me for parenting. This is ridiculous." Judge ignored her and moved on to the next case. Outside, Mom lit into Ryan and Kaylee. "You threw me under the bus in there!" Ryan said. "No, we told the truth." Kaylee stayed behind him, arms crossed. Steve finally spoke up. "Linda, stop yelling at them in parking lots. You look unhinged." She glared at him. "Oh, so you're done pretending to support me?" He didn't answer. Just walked Ryan and Kaylee to the truck. After that day, things at Mom's house cracked fast. Ryan started staying at Aunt Megan's some weekends. Mom called them ungrateful, loud enough for neighbors to hear. Steve stopped coming home for dinner. Started working later, sleeping in the guest room. One night, Ryan texted me. She told Steve he can leave if he doesn't like it. Next day, his basketball bag and Kaylee's suitcase were in Steve's truck. I saw them the following weekend when Dad took me to Ryan's game. Steve sat with Aunt Megan in the bleachers. Kaylee waved at me but didn't go near Mom, who stood off to the side scowling at everyone. After the game, Ryan walked right past her to Steve's truck. Kaylee followed. Mom yelled after them, "Fine, go live with him. See if I care." Nobody looked back. Dad got permanent custody about 6 weeks later. Mom didn't really contest after the temporary order. The judge cited the Christmas incident, school fallout, both recordings and the kids' statements. Steve moved out officially 2 weeks after the ruling. He left the couch, some dishes, and one of his work jackets hanging by the door. Took everything else, including Ryan and Kaylee. Aunt Megan told Dad later that Mom called everyone traitors again, then stopped answering texts when nobody agreed with her. By spring, she was living alone. No Ryan, no Kaylee, no me. Steve filed for divorce quietly. Mom posted a long Facebook rant about fake family and people poisoning kids against their own mother. Comments were mostly cousins telling her to stop airing it online. At school, things calmed down fast. Ryan wasn't Grinch Jr. anymore. Kaylee deleted half her TikToks. I stopped getting questions in the hallways. Coach asked once if things were better at home. I said yeah. He nodded and changed the subject to practice drills. By summer, Dad set up my room properly. Painted walls, new shelves, actual desk that didn't wobble. Ryan came over sometimes. Kaylee too. Steve dropped them off but didn't stay long. Mom never showed up. Last I heard, she was still in that house alone. Neighbors said she stopped coming to block parties. Grandma didn't invite her to Easter. Aunt Megan told her flat out, "You did this to yourself." Mom hung up on her. At the first basketball game of the next season, Dad sat with Steve, Ryan, and Kaylee in the stands. I saw Mom standing near the bleachers alone. When the game ended, I walked past her to Dad's car without stopping. She didn't say anything. That was the last time I saw her. YouTube just dropped this new hype feature. If you're hooked on this story, smash that hype button. It tells YouTube this video deserves to blow up, and it keeps even crazier stories coming your way. Story 4. My manager scheduled my performance review during my wedding. Priorities, she smirked. I prioritized sending my resignation to her boss during her performance review. We both learned about timing. Hey Reddit, so my manager thought it'd be funny to schedule my performance review right in the middle of my wedding weekend. Said I needed to get my priorities straight. Cool. So I got my priorities straight. Sent my resignation to her boss exactly 30 minutes into her own performance review. Turns out, timing really is everything. Name's Julian, 34 male. I worked as a senior operations analyst for Cascade Financial Solutions. Big regional firm. Handles investment portfolios for mid-sized companies. Does some consulting work on the side. Been there 8 years. Started as a junior analyst making okay money. Worked my way up through competence and not causing drama. Started in 2015 right after finishing my finance degree. The market was recovering from the recession and jobs were competitive. Cascade wasn't my first choice, but they offered decent starting pay and promised growth opportunities for people who proved themselves. Figured I'd do 2 years, build my resume, move on to something bigger. 2 years turned into 8. Not because I was stuck. Got recruited multiple times over the years by competitors offering better packages. But Cascade felt stable. I knew the systems, understood the clients, had built relationships with people who actually respected competence over politics. Or so I thought. The job was fine. Good pay, decent benefits, the kind of work where if you're organized and detail-oriented, you can coast pretty comfortably. I handled portfolio reconciliation, which sounds boring because it is. But it's important boring. Companies trust us with millions in assets, and someone needs to make sure the numbers actually match reality. That someone was me, and I was good at it. Portfolio reconciliation isn't glamorous. No client presentations, no flashy deals, no executive visibility, just meticulous work ensuring investment records match custodian statements, catching discrepancies before they become problems, maintaining the accuracy that keeps regulatory audits clean. The kind of work where doing it perfectly means nobody notices you exist, except when something goes wrong. Then everyone notices. I'd saved Cascade's reputation at least 4 times in my 8 years there. The 2017 audit, where I caught a systematic error in dividend reinvestment calculations, would have cost the firm $3.2 million in regulatory fines if it had made it to examination. The 2019 client data migration that I personally quality checked because our vendor had screwed up the reconciliation protocols prevented 847 client accounts from showing incorrect balances. The 2020 system upgrade where I worked 73-hour weeks testing integration protocols because nobody else understood how our legacy platforms connected to the new infrastructure. Each time, I fixed the problem quietly, documented everything, made sure leadership knew what happened and how I'd resolved it, got thanked, got decent bonuses, got told I was invaluable to operations, just never got promoted to management. My manager was a woman named Patricia, mid-50s, 23 years with the company, the kind of person who'd turned middle management into a competitive sport, not in a good way. She'd clawed her way to operations director and spent most of her energy protecting territory instead of actually managing people. Patricia came up through Cascade in the 1990s, when the company was smaller and merit mattered less than endurance. She'd outlasted 3 restructurings, 2 ownership changes, and 5 different executives. Survival became her primary skill. She knew where every political body was buried, maintained relationships with the right people, and positioned herself as indispensable by making everything unnecessarily complicated. Her management style was simple: control information, take credit for successes, deflect blame for failures. She ran monthly team meetings where she'd spend 45 minutes talking about strategic initiatives that never materialized, and 15 minutes asking for status updates she'd ignore. One-on-ones were performative. She'd ask about your workload while checking email, nod at appropriate moments, then continue doing exactly what she'd been doing before. But she was smart about it. Never crossed lines that would get HR involved. Never created documentation trails that could be used against her. Just maintained this constant pressure that made questioning her seem more trouble than it was worth. Patricia and I had an understanding for the first 6 years. I did my work, stayed out of office politics, and she left me alone. That worked until 2 years ago when she hired someone new. Her nephew, guy named Kyle. Kyle was 26, fresh MBA from some regional program, zero actual experience in financial operations. Patricia brought him in as a special projects coordinator, which is corporate speak for "I'm creating a position because nepotism." The hiring process was a joke. Job posting went up on a Friday, got taken down the following Monday. Kyle started Wednesday. No interviews with other candidates. No competitive selection. Just Patricia deciding the department needed a special projects coordinator, and coincidentally her nephew was available. First day, she introduced him to the team like he was some kind of prodigy. Talked about his MBA, his fresh perspective, his innovative approach to operational challenges. Kyle stood there looking uncomfortable, but not uncomfortable enough to acknowledge this was complete garbage. I gave him the benefit of the doubt initially. Maybe he'd actually prove competent. Maybe Patricia would keep him contained to actual special projects that didn't impact real work. Within 3 months, Kyle was handling client presentations I'd spent years building expertise for. Within 6 months, Patricia started routing important reconciliation projects through him first. Projects I'd designed, processes I'd built from scratch. The shift was gradual but deliberate. Small redirections at first. Kyle's going to sit in on this client meeting, learn how we handle these relationships. Then it became, Kyle will be presenting to the client, you'll be there for technical support. Eventually, it was just, Kyle's handling this, loop him in on the details. I watched my work get filtered through someone who didn't understand it, repackaged with buzzwords from his MBA program, and presented to clients who'd worked with me for years. They'd look confused during meetings, asking questions Kyle couldn't answer, and I'd step in to clarify. Then Patricia would thank Kyle for managing the presentation effectively. The other analysts noticed, started making comments in private about Patricia's nephew getting preferential treatment. But nobody said anything officially because Patricia controlled performance reviews, project assignments, and basically every aspect of career advancement in operations. The breaking point came last April when the CFO asked me to lead a system integration for a major client acquisition. Big project, high visibility, the kind of thing that could actually move a career forward. Spent 2 weeks developing the integration plan, stress testing protocols, building documentation. Patricia called me into her office the day before my presentation to the executive team. Said Kyle would be presenting instead. Said he needed the exposure. That I'd had plenty of opportunities already. That this was about developing emerging talent. Kyle took my presentation, changed exactly 3 slides, delivered it word for word using my notes, and got praised by the CFO for his innovative approach to integration challenges. I sat in the back of that conference room, watching my work get credited to someone else. Patricia caught my eye once during the presentation and smiled. Not a friendly smile. A "what are you going to do about it?" smile. After that meeting, I started documenting everything. Every project reassignment. Every credit Kyle received for work I'd done. Every time Patricia chose her nephew over actual competence. Kept a detailed spreadsheet with dates, witnesses, project outcomes. Not because I planned to sue, because I knew how these situations end, and I wanted insurance when things inevitably got worse. Things got worse 6 months later when I met someone. Her name's Rachel. Works in pharmaceutical research, smart as hell, laughs at my boring finance jokes. We met at a friend's barbecue, hit it off immediately, started dating in June, and by October I knew she was it. The person you build a life with. Proposed in December. She said yes. We set the wedding date for September 24th. A Saturday, perfect weather. Venue we both loved. Sent the save the dates in January. Told Patricia about the engagement in February during a routine one-on-one. She congratulated me. Seemed genuine. Even asked to see photos of the venue. I showed her. She made appropriate comments about how beautiful everything looked. Gave her the official wedding date in March. She marked it on her calendar. Said she'd make sure I had that Friday off too, make it a long weekend. I thanked her. Thought maybe we'd turned a corner. Yeah. No. June rolled around. Performance review season. Every analyst gets reviewed twice a year. January and June. Standard corporate ritual where your manager tells you things you already know about your performance. You nod, sign some paperwork, and everyone moves on with their lives. My review was scheduled for June 14th. Normal. Patricia's assistant sent the calendar invite. I accepted it, prepared my self-assessment like always. Then July happened. Patricia called me into her office on July 12th, Friday afternoon, 4:30 p.m. That should have been my first warning. Nothing good happens at 4:30 on a Friday. She was sitting behind her desk. Kyle was standing near the window. That should have been my second warning. Julian, she started, we need to reschedule your performance review. Okay. When works better? September 24th, 2 p.m. I blinked. That's my wedding day. I'm aware. She didn't even look up from her computer. Unfortunately, it's the only time that works with everyone's schedules. Everyone's schedules? Kyle will be sitting in on your review. He's being groomed for a leadership position, needs exposure to the performance management process. She finally looked at me. This is a development opportunity for him. My stomach dropped. Patricia, that's literally my wedding. The ceremony starts at 3 p.m. Then you'll need to decide what's more important. She smiled. That same smile from the presentation. Your performance review impacts your compensation, your advancement opportunities, your standing with the firm. I'd think carefully about your priorities. Kyle shifted by the window, looked uncomfortable, but not uncomfortable enough to say anything. I've had this date on the calendar for months. You marked it yourself. Plans change. The business has needs. We're entering Q4 planning, and your review is a critical input for resource allocation decisions. Patricia leaned back in her chair. 2 p.m., September 24th. Don't be late. I sat there for maybe 10 seconds. Brain running through options. Push back harder? Go to HR? Appeal to someone above her? I'll figure it out, I said. Good. Glad we understand each other. Walked out of her office knowing exactly what this was. Not about scheduling conflicts. Not about Q4 planning. This was about power. About showing me who was in control. About making me choose between my career and my wedding. Knowing either choice would hurt. That weekend, Rachel and I talked it through. She was furious. Wanted me to go straight to HR, file a complaint, escalate to Patricia's boss. I explained how these things work in corporate environments. HR protects the company, not employees. Patricia had 23 years of political capital. I had documentation but no leverage. So what do we do? Rachel asked. We don't do anything. I handle it. Handle it how? I kissed her forehead. Trust me. Just trust me. Over the next 6 weeks, I executed the quietest job search of my career. Updated my resume during lunch breaks. Did phone interviews from my car in parking lots 3 towns over. Met with recruiters at coffee shops where nobody from Cascade would ever go. The job search required military precision. Couldn't use my work computer or phone for anything. Couldn't let anyone at the office know I was looking. Scheduled interviews during doctor appointments and family emergencies that were vague enough to not raise questions. Told exactly 0 people at work. The first recruiter I talked to was skeptical when I explained my situation. Said scheduling a performance review during someone's wedding sounded like something from a bad TV show. But when I sent him the documentation, Patricia's emails, the calendar invites, the reminders, his tone changed. This is actually useful, he said. Shows you have boundaries. Companies want people who can walk away from toxic situations. He connected me with 3 opportunities. 2 were lateral moves. Similar roles, similar pay. The third was Meridian Capital. Bigger firm, more prestigious, actual growth trajectory. The Meridian recruiter wanted 3 interviews. Phone screen with HR. Technical interview with the hiring manager and 2 senior analysts. Final interview with the department VP, who'd done his homework and asked specific questions about projects I'd handled. Found 2 solid opportunities by mid-August. One was with Meridian Capital. Bigger firm, better pay, actual growth trajectory. The other was a senior analyst role at a competing investment firm. Both wanted me. Meridian offered $98,000. Better benefits. Larger team with clearer advancement paths. The recruiter mentioned they were expanding their operations division and looking for people to potentially move into management. Took the Meridian offer on August 28th. Start date, October 2nd. Gave me a week after the wedding to tie up personal stuff before diving into the new role. But I didn't tell Patricia. Didn't tell anyone at Cascade Financial. September 24th was going to be interesting. The week before the wedding, Patricia sent 3 reminder emails about my performance review, each one more pointed than the last. September 17th. Reminder: your performance review is scheduled for Saturday, September 24th at 2 p.m. Please come prepared with your self-assessment and supporting documentation. September 20th. I haven't received your self-assessment yet. This is required 48 hours before your review. Please submit immediately. September 22nd. Julian, your performance review is in 2 days. Non-attendance will be noted in your file as a failure to engage in the performance management process. This could impact your standing with the firm. Each email CC'd Kyle. Of course. I replied to the September 22nd email at 11:47 p.m. Received. Will be there. Rachel looked over my shoulder while I typed it. You're really going? No, but she thinks I am. What's the plan? You'll see. Don't worry about it. Just focus on enjoying our wedding. She squeezed my hand. You're terrifying when you're calm like this. Learned from the best. I kissed her. This is going to be fun. September 24th arrived with perfect weather. Clear skies, 72 degrees, light breeze. The venue looked incredible. Outdoor garden ceremony, reception hall with floor-to-ceiling windows, everything we'd wanted. The venue was this historic estate about 40 minutes outside Portland. We toured 8 different locations before finding it. Rachel had fallen in love with the gardens immediately. Roses, hydrangeas, stone pathways winding through landscaped sections that looked like something from a fairy tale. The reception hall had these massive windows overlooking a small lake. Perfect sunset views. Cost us $8,700 for the venue rental, but worth every dollar. We'd been planning this day for 9 months. Every detail carefully selected. Flowers, seating arrangements, music, menu. Rachel had spreadsheets tracking everything. I'd handled vendor coordination and timeline management. Between us, we'd created something perfect. Rachel's family arrived around noon. Her parents drove up from Eugene with her 2 sisters. Her grandmother flew in from Arizona, cousins from Seattle. About 30 people from her side, all of them genuinely happy to be there. Her dad pulled me aside when he arrived, shook my hand hard. You make my daughter happy, he said. That's all I need to know about you. Planning to keep making her happy for the next 60 years. Good man. My family showed up 30 minutes later. Parents, younger sister, a handful of cousins. Smaller group, but good people. Mom was already crying before the ceremony even started. Dad looked uncomfortable in his suit, but proud. Sister helped Rachel's family with last-minute setup details. Everyone happy, excited, dressed perfectly. The photographer was already circulating, capturing pre-ceremony moments. Rachel's sister trying to pin flowers in her hair. Groomsmen adjusting ties and making stupid jokes. Bridesmaids laughing about something. Normal wedding chaos. I checked my phone at 1:30 p.m., right on schedule. Patricia had sent another email at 1:15 p.m. Where are you? Your review starts in 45 minutes. Didn't respond. Put my phone on silent. Went to find Rachel. She was in the bridal suite with her sisters, dressed looking perfect, makeup flawless, absolutely radiant. Saw me and lit up. Hey, you're not supposed to see me before the ceremony. Traditional rules don't apply today. I pulled out my phone. Need you to do something for me. What? At exactly 2:30 p.m., I need you to text my phone. Doesn't matter what it says. Just send something? She looked confused but nodded. Okay. Why? You'll understand later. Promise. Walked back outside. My best man, a college buddy named Trevor, was corralling groomsmen for photos. He saw my face and raised an eyebrow. You good? Never better. You look like you're planning something. Just getting married today. That's the plan. The ceremony started at 3 p.m. exactly. Standing at the altar watching Rachel walk down the aisle, I felt nothing but peace. This was right. This was what mattered. Not performance reviews or corporate politics or proving points to middle managers who peaked 20 years ago. The officiant was Rachel's uncle, a retired professor who'd gotten ordained specifically to perform our ceremony. He'd worked with us to write vows that actually meant something instead of generic promises. When he asked if I'd take Rachel to be my wife, I didn't hesitate. I do. When he asked Rachel, she smiled at me with tears in her eyes. I absolutely do. We said our vows, exchanged rings, simple platinum bands we'd picked out together, kissed while everyone cheered, walked back down the aisle as husband and wife to applause and camera flashes. My phone stayed silent in my jacket pocket, right where I wanted it. The receiving line took 40 minutes. Hugging relatives, thanking people for coming, accepting congratulations. Patricia's emails were piling up somewhere in cyberspace. I didn't care. This day was about Rachel and me. Everything else could wait. Reception started at 5 p.m. During cocktail hour, I finally checked my messages. 7 emails from Patricia. Timestamps showed they started getting frantic around 2:15 p.m. 2:14 p.m. Julian, where are you? 2:31 p.m. This is completely unacceptable. You're missing your performance review. 2:47 p.m. I'm documenting this as refusal to participate in required performance management activities. 3:04 p.m. Your behavior today demonstrates exactly the kind of attitude problems we'll be addressing in your review. 3:22 p.m. You've made a serious error in judgment. 3:45 p.m. We'll be discussing disciplinary action on Monday. 4:18 p.m. This will have consequences. Each one CC'd Kyle and Patricia's boss, David Chen. Wait, can't use that name. Let me call him David Foster. Her boss, David Foster. Perfect. I forwarded all 7 emails to my personal account. Then I opened my work email and started typing. My resignation letter took exactly 8 minutes to write. Short, professional, devastating. Dear David Foster, please accept this as my formal resignation from Cascade Financial Solutions, effective immediately. After 8 years with the company, I've accepted a senior position with Meridian Capital. My last day will be September 24th, 2023. I want to specifically thank Patricia Williams for helping me clarify my priorities. Her decision to schedule my performance review during my wedding ceremony demonstrated exactly the kind of leadership approach that helped me recognize it was time to move on. I'm available to discuss transition planning at your convenience, though perhaps not during significant personal milestones. Best regards, Julian Reeves. Attached my documentation spreadsheet. Every project Patricia had reassigned to Kyle. Every instance of my work being credited to her nephew. Every email showing the pattern. 8 years of meticulous records showing exactly how operations had been managed under her leadership. Set the email to send at 6:30 p.m. Why 6:30 p.m. specifically? Because I'd checked the company calendar before the wedding. Patricia's own performance review with David Foster was scheduled for 6 p.m. Standard hour-long session. My resignation would land exactly 30 minutes into her review, right when David would be discussing her leadership effectiveness, her team development approach, her management philosophy. Timing really is everything. Rachel found me during dinner. You okay? You keep checking your phone. Just waiting for something. Should happen any minute. Is this about Patricia? Yeah, but don't worry about it. Enjoy dinner. Dance with your dad. I'll fill you in later. At 6:31 p.m., my phone buzzed. Email from David Foster's assistant. Received your resignation. Mr. Foster would like to speak with you Monday morning. Then, nothing for 10 minutes. Then my phone exploded. Text from Patricia. Call me immediately. Email from Patricia. We need to discuss your resignation. Email from David Foster. Julian, I've received your resignation and supporting documentation. Can we schedule a call? Text from Patricia again. This is completely inappropriate. Email from Patricia's assistant. Patricia's asking if you can come to the office tomorrow. I responded to David Foster only. Happy to discuss transition planning Monday. Congratulations on your wedding celebration. Turned my phone back to silent. Went back to the reception. Danced with Rachel. Celebrated with family and friends. Had the best night of my life while Patricia presumably had the worst evening of her career. Monday morning came with clarity. Woke up in a hotel suite with my wife, that still felt amazing, and checked my email over room service coffee. The hotel was downtown Portland. Nice place Rachel and I had splurged on for the wedding night and next morning. Room service brought up breakfast around 8. Eggs, bacon, toast, fresh fruit, coffee that was actually decent for hotel coffee. We ate slowly, enjoying the peace before reality came rushing back. David Foster had sent a message at 7:04 a.m. Julian, please come to my office at 9 a.m. Just you and me. Got to the office at 8:55 a.m. David's assistant looked uncomfortable when she saw me. He's expecting you. Go right in. David Foster was 58, 26 years with Cascade Financial, worked his way up from analyst to senior vice president of operations. Smart guy. Fair. Didn't play politics, which was probably why Patricia had managed to operate under his radar for so long. His office was on the executive floor, corner space with windows overlooking downtown. He kept it simple. Functional desk, comfortable chairs for meetings, walls covered with industry certifications and company milestone photos. The kind of space that said, I work here, rather than look how important I am. Julian, sit down. I sat. That was quite a resignation letter. Seemed appropriate given the circumstances. He pulled up his computer screen, turned it so I could see. My documentation spreadsheet, open to the summary tab. Every reassigned project highlighted in yellow. Every instance of credit given to Kyle highlighted in red. 8 years of patterns. Impossible to dismiss as coincidence. I spent most of Sunday going through this. Called 3 other analysts. Asked them to verify some of the projects you listed. He leaned back. They verified everything. 2 of them asked if I was finally doing something about Patricia's management approach. She's been doing this a while. Apparently. David closed the laptop. Patricia's review did not go well. The timing of your resignation was particularly educational. Helped me understand some context I'd been missing about her leadership effectiveness. He paused, picked up a folder from his desk. After your resignation came through Saturday evening, I pulled Patricia's performance reviews for the past 5 years. Looked at turnover rates in operations compared to other departments. Found some concerning patterns. Like what? Operations has had 34% turnover over the past 3 years. Company average is 18%. Most exits are people with 3 to 7 years experience. Exactly the range where they'd be candidates for advancement to management positions. He opened the folder. Exit interviews cite lack of growth opportunities, favoritism in project assignments, and, quote, unclear evaluation criteria. That matches what I've seen. It also matches what I should have been paying attention to years ago. David looked genuinely frustrated with himself. I'm 3 levels removed from day-to-day operations. I rely on directors like Patricia to manage their teams effectively. When turnover happens, I get sanitized explanations about market conditions or employees wanting new challenges. Never dug deeper. You were given filtered information. Hard to spot patterns you're not shown. Still my responsibility. I'm the senior VP. I should have been asking harder questions. He pulled out another document. This morning I had HR pull all performance reviews Patricia's conducted in the past 4 years. There's a clear pattern. Analysts who work directly on her priorities get consistently higher ratings. Analysts who challenge her decisions or demonstrate independence get marked down for ambiguous things like attitude concerns or resistance to feedback. Kyle always got top ratings? Kyle's reviews are glowing. According to Patricia's assessments, he's the most talented analyst she's ever managed. Natural leader, innovative thinker, ready for immediate advancement. David looked at me. You know his actual performance better than anyone. Does that match reality? Kyle's competent at basic tasks when someone gives him clear instructions. Put him in an ambiguous situation requiring judgment, and he freezes. I've watched him panic over problems a second-year analyst should handle easily. That's what I suspected. But Patricia's been positioning him as her successor, advocating for creating an associate director position specifically for him. David closed the folder. Here's where we are. I can't keep you here. You've accepted another position, and honestly, after what Patricia pulled with your wedding, I wouldn't expect you to stay. But I want to understand the full scope of what's been happening in operations. The spreadsheet shows most of it. It shows project reassignments and credit attribution. What it doesn't show is impact on team morale, client relationships, operational effectiveness. He leaned forward. I need you to walk me through that. Completely candid conversation. No consequences. I spent 2 hours laying it out. How Patricia's nepotism had destroyed team trust. How Kyle's incompetence had created actual client issues that other analysts had to fix quietly. How the department's best people were interviewing elsewhere because they saw the same patterns I did. Gave him specific examples. The Morrison account where Kyle had presented incorrect reconciliation data to the client during a quarterly review. I'd caught it 20 minutes before the meeting, pulled him aside, walked him through the corrections. He'd thanked me privately, then presented the corrected data as if he'd prepared it himself. The Stedman portfolio, where Kyle had miscalculated dividend distributions, creating tax reporting errors that took me 3 weeks to unwind. Patricia had praised his proactive approach to the account, while I'd been working late nights fixing his mistakes. The internal audit where Kyle had prepared documentation that was technically accurate, but missed critical context about how our reconciliation processes actually worked. I'd spent a weekend rewriting everything before the auditors arrived. Patricia had thanked Kyle for his excellent preparation. David took notes the whole time, asked clarifying questions, requested specific examples with dates and witnesses. By the time we finished, he had enough detail to justify whatever needed to happen next. Thank you for being direct, he said finally. I should have seen this sooner. You were 3 levels removed from day-to-day operations. Hard to see what people are actively hiding. Still my responsibility. He stood up, extended his hand. I'm sorry we're losing you. You deserved better than this. I shook his hand. Appreciate that. One more thing. Your documentation is incredibly thorough, professional, the kind of thing that demonstrates real analytical thinking. He smiled slightly. Meridian's lucky to have you? Thanks. If you ever want to come back under different management, my door's open. I nodded. I'll keep that in mind. Walking out of David's office, I ran into Kyle. He looked terrible. Dark circles under his eyes, suit wrinkled, tie crooked. Julian, hey, can we talk? Not much to talk about. I know you're leaving. I just wanted to say... He stopped, looked around, lowered his voice. My aunt's freaking out. She thinks you're trying to get her fired. Not trying to do anything. Just documented what happened. She didn't mean to schedule your review during your wedding. It was an honest mistake. I stared at him. Kyle, she told me to my face it was about priorities. She said I needed to choose between my career and my wedding. That wasn't a mistake. That was a power play. He shifted uncomfortably. She's really stressed right now. Maybe you could talk to David, explain it was just a misunderstanding? No. Come on, man. She's family. She gave me this opportunity. She gave you opportunities you didn't earn by taking them from people who did. That's not family support. That's corruption. I stepped past him. Good luck with everything. He called after me. This isn't over. I didn't respond. Honestly, didn't care if it was over or not. I was done with Cascade Financial in 6 days, regardless of what Patricia or Kyle thought. The rest of Monday was standard offboarding. Returned my laptop, badge, parking pass, handed over passwords and access codes, wrote transition notes for whoever would take over my portfolios. Tuesday, Patricia didn't show up to work. Her assistant said she was out sick. Wednesday too. Thursday. I heard through office gossip that she'd been placed on administrative leave pending an investigation into management practices. Friday was my last day. A few analysts took me to lunch, asked where I was going, said they'd miss working with me. One of them, a woman named Jennifer, pulled me aside before we headed back. I'm putting in my notice next week. Found a position at another firm. Better pay, better management. She looked at me seriously. Thank you for finally documenting what we've all been living with. Half the department's been afraid to say anything because Patricia has so much political capital. Had, I corrected. Past tense. Yeah, had. She smiled. Enjoy Meridian. I've heard good things. My last email at Cascade Financial Solutions was sent at 4:47 p.m. on September 29th. Standard farewell message to the team, thanking people for 8 years of collaboration, wishing everyone success. Logged out, walked to my car, drove home to my wife. Rachel had dinner waiting when I got home. Nothing fancy, just pasta and salad, but perfect after a weird week. How'd it go? She asked. Done. All of it. Clean exit. Patricia? On leave. Investigation into her management practices. Don't know what'll happen long term, but she's definitely having a bad month. Rachel smiled. Good. She earned it. We ate dinner. Talked about honeymoon plans. We delayed the trip until after I started the new job. Wanted to go when I could actually relax. Decided on 2 weeks in Portugal. Flights, hotels, itinerary, normal married couple stuff. Later that night, lying in bed, Rachel asked the question I'd been waiting for. Why didn't you just go to HR earlier? Why wait until the wedding to quit? Because HR would have protected Patricia. She has 2 decades of tenure, political relationships, institutional knowledge. I'm a senior analyst with documentation. Who do you think they'd support? But after she scheduled your review during the wedding, after that, I had leverage. She showed everyone exactly who she was, made it impossible for leadership to ignore. If I'd quit earlier, they could have painted it as sour grapes. Quitting after she tried to force me to choose between my wedding and my career? That's indefensible. Rachel thought about that. You're kind of scary when you think things through. Learn to be patient. Corporate environments reward long games. And the timing? Sending your resignation during her review? I smiled. That was just payback for the smile she gave me when Kyle took credit for my integration project. Wanted her to understand that timing matters. Priorities matter. And sometimes the person you underestimate is the one who destroys you. Rachel kissed me. Remind me never to get on your bad side. You won't. You're on my good side forever. October 2nd arrived with surprising calm. Started at Meridian Capital, got the standard new employee orientation, met my new team. Everyone professional, competent, no obvious nepotism or political warfare. Just people doing good work together. My new manager was a guy named Frank. Early 40s, 12 years with Meridian, straightforward communication style. First one-on-one, he laid out expectations clearly. Here's how I manage. I tell you what needs to be done. You tell me if you need resources or support. We work together to solve problems. No surprises, no politics, no games. That work for you? That works perfectly. Good. I've read through your portfolio from Cascade. Impressive documentation, strong analytical approach. We're glad to have you. Over the next month, I settled into the new role. The work was similar to Cascade, but better organized. Clearer priorities, more rational decision-making, competent leadership that actually valued expertise. Meanwhile, back at Cascade Financial, things were falling apart. I heard through Jennifer, who'd left Cascade 2 weeks after me, that Patricia's investigation had expanded. HR had interviewed 23 current and former employees. 7 analysts had come forward with similar stories about credit attribution, project reassignments, and nepotistic favoritism. Kyle had been quietly transferred to a different department. No more special projects. No more client presentations. Just standard analyst work reporting to someone who wasn't his aunt. By mid-November, Patricia resigned. Official story was she was pursuing other opportunities. Real story, according to Jennifer, was that David Foster had given her a choice: resign with severance or get terminated for cause after the investigation concluded. She took the resignation. 3 months later, I got a LinkedIn message from Kyle. Subject line: apology. Julian, I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I wanted to apologize for how everything went down at Cascade. My aunt convinced me I deserved those opportunities, that I was being groomed for leadership. I didn't realize until after she left how much damage her favoritism caused. I'm working under new management now. It's humbling. I'm learning what actual competence looks like versus getting credit for other people's work. You were right about everything. I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner. Kyle. I read it twice. Thought about responding. Decided there wasn't much point. The apology was for him, not me. Catharsis for his guilt, not actual amends. Deleted the message, moved on. December brought promotions at Meridian. Standard annual review cycle. Frank called me into his office on December 18th, exactly 11 weeks after I started. You've made significant contributions already. Strong analytical work, excellent client relationships, solid documentation practices. He slid a folder across the desk. We're promoting you to principal analyst. 22% raise, expanded portfolio, leadership development track. I opened the folder. Everything he'd said in writing. Effective January 1st. This is based on merit, Frank continued. Your work. Your contributions. Not politics. Not tenure. Not anything except performance. I appreciate that. You've also mentioned your wife works in pharmaceutical research. Meridian's expanding into healthcare portfolio management. If she's interested in consulting work, we've got projects that could use her expertise. Rachel had mentioned wanting to do more consulting. Extra income, flexible schedule, chance to apply her research background differently. I'll let her know. No pressure, just wanted to make the connection available. That night, I told Rachel about the promotion and the consulting opportunity. She was excited about both. You did it, she said. Got out of that toxic environment, landed somewhere better, got promoted within 3 months. That's incredible. Help that Patricia gave me the perfect exit story. Hard for new employers to not respect someone who quit after their boss scheduled a performance review during their wedding. Rachel laughed. You really did use that in interviews? Why not? It's true. Shows I have boundaries. Shows I won't tolerate disrespect regardless of career implications. Employers like that. You're something else. I'm something else you're married to. Lucky me. 6 months after leaving Cascade Financial, I ran into David Foster at an industry conference. He was there representing Cascade's new operational structure. I was there presenting on portfolio reconciliation innovations Meridian had implemented. We grabbed coffee during a break. You're doing well, David observed. Heard about your promotion. Congratulations. Thanks. How's Cascade? Better. We restructured operations completely. New director, new processes, actual merit-based advancement. He sipped his coffee. Your documentation helped justify everything. Several other analysts came forward after you left. The investigation found systemic problems that had been building for years. Glad it helped. Patricia's working for a smaller firm now. Different city. From what I hear, struggling to adjust to an environment where nepotism doesn't fly. Shame. David smiled slightly. Kyle's still with us. Different department, like you probably heard. He's actually doing okay now that he's being held to real standards. Turns out he's not incompetent, just was never challenged to actually develop competence. That's good, I guess. It is. The department's healthier overall. Morale's up. Retention's better. We're hiring people based on merit. He paused. You helped make that happen. Whether you intended to or not. I just documented what I saw. You did more than that. You set a boundary, showed people it's possible to push back against toxic management without destroying your career. David extended his hand. Thank you. Genuinely. We shook hands. Parted ways. I didn't think much about Patricia or Kyle or Cascade Financial after that. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel and help us bring you more and better stories. Thanks. Story 5. This story is titled, My Brother Who Stole My Wife. 4 years ago, finally came home for a visit. He mocked me with my ex until my dad dropped the truth that wrecked them. Hey everyone, before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. I've been trying to write this post for a while now, but it's not easy putting everything into words. I guess I should start from the beginning, back when things were normal and I actually thought I had a good life. So a year ago, I, 32 male, was living what I thought was pretty much the perfect life with my wife Sarah, 30 female. We'd been married for 5 years at that point, had our own house. Nothing fancy, but it was ours, you know. We even had this amazing Maine Coon cat named Lumi, who Sarah gave me for our first anniversary. Man, that cat is something else. Pure white fur, super intelligent, and definitely thinks she runs the household. Let's be real, she does. I work in software development, not making crazy Silicon Valley money or anything, but enough that we were comfortable. Sarah was a kindergarten teacher at this really nice school about 20 minutes from our place. She was really good at her job too. Like, parents would specifically request to have their kids in her class. Every day she'd come home with these hilarious stories about what the kids did or said. We'd sit at dinner and just laugh about all the weird things that happened in her classroom. We had this whole routine that just worked, you know? Mornings were our thing. We'd get up early and have coffee together before work. Sarah would do this thing where she'd steal my coffee when she thought I wasn't looking, even though she had her own right in front of her. Said mine always tasted better for some reason. Weekends were for sleeping in, well, trying to. Lumi had other ideas about breakfast time, making pancakes and just doing normal couple stuff. My older brother Jake, 35 male, was around a lot too. He worked at this big investment firm downtown, always showing up in these expensive suits and that stupid Mercedes he wouldn't shut up about. Mom and Dad basically thought he was God's gift to the family business. Dad owns this pretty successful construction company that Jake helped manage the finances for. Everyone was always talking about how successful Jake was, how smart he was with money, how he was really making something of himself. I started noticing the signs, but I didn't piece them together at the time. Jake would randomly stop by our house when he knew I was working late, always finding an excuse to be around. At family dinners, he somehow always ended up sitting next to Sarah. Then there were the little comments, subtle digs about my house, my car, or my job. Never outright insults, just these offhand remarks about how he could never settle for my lifestyle. But you don't expect that kind of thing from your own brother, right? And every time he said something, Sarah would just roll her eyes and cuddle closer to me, so I figured everything was fine. Sarah and I had all these plans we were working on. We'd been saving up for a bigger house, talking about having kids soon. She'd already picked out names, wanted to name a boy after her grandfather, stuff like that. We even started looking at houses with bigger yards because Sarah was convinced Lumi needed more space to express herself. Pretty sure Lumi just wanted more birds to watch through the windows. Man, Lumi was so excited every time we went house hunting. Sarah would hold up these cat beds or toys at different stores and ask, "What do you think of this for your new room, Lumi?" Like the cat was going to give design advice or something. But that was Sarah, always including Lumi in everything like she was our kid. I really thought we had it all figured out. Good jobs, nice house, plans for the future, amazing cat. What more could you want, right? Sarah seemed happy too. We still did date nights every month, still cuddled on the couch watching movies with Lumi sprawled across both our laps. She still kissed me goodbye every morning and sent me random texts during the day just to say she loved me. I know this probably sounds super boring to most people. No crazy parties or exotic vacations or anything. Just normal life stuff. But I liked it. I liked coming home to Sarah and Lumi, liked our little routines, liked planning our future together. Liked that Sarah seemed to want the same things I did. Yeah, Jake would make comments sometimes about how I needed to think bigger or take more risks, like him. But I had everything I wanted. But funny, how fast things can change, how people you trust completely can just, yeah. But I'm getting ahead of myself. That was my life a year ago. Normal. Happy. Stable. The calm before everything went to hell, I guess. So remember how I mentioned those monthly date nights with Sarah? We had this favorite Italian place called Romano's. Nothing super fancy, but the food was amazing, and they knew us there. Like the owner Mario would always save our table and bring out this special garlic bread Sarah loved. That night started normal enough. I got to Romano's early because I wanted to surprise Sarah with flowers. She'd had a rough week at work dealing with some angry parent. I remember being kind of excited because I'd also found this little cat-shaped keychain that looked exactly like Lumi, and I knew Sarah would love it. I was walking to our usual table when I saw them. Jake and Sarah sitting in this corner booth. At first, my brain didn't process what I was seeing. Like, maybe they ran into each other? Maybe they were planning something for my birthday? But nah, the way they were sitting, how close they were. Jake's hand was on hers, and Sarah was looking at him with this expression I used to think was just for me. I just stood there, locked in place, watching my brother and my wife look at each other the way she used to look at me. They didn't even notice me at first, just sitting there, all cozy, laughing about something. Then Sarah looked up and saw me standing there with these stupid flowers in my hand. You guys want to know what she did? She smiled. Not even an embarrassed smile or a guilty smile. Just this casual smile, like she'd been waiting for me to find out. And Jake? This piece of work actually said, and I swear I'm not making this up. Oh, hey, bro. We were wondering when you'd figure it out. Like this was some kind of game or something. I just stood there for a minute, probably looking like an idiot. Then Jake goes, come on, you had to know Sarah was too good for your lifestyle. And that's when it really sunk in. This wasn't just about Sarah. This wasn't even just about betrayal. This was about disrespect. It wasn't enough for Jake to have more money, a flashier car, or dad's approval. He had to take my wife. And not just take her, he wanted me to see it. To know that he could step into my life, take what was mine, and win. He wasn't just trying to steal Sarah, he was trying to erase me. My fist clenched so tight I felt my nails dig into my palms. My own brother, the guy who was supposed to have my back, had looked at my life and decided he was entitled to it. And Sarah? She didn't just let it happen. She went along with it. Like I was nothing. Like I never mattered. Every guy knows there's a line you don't cross. You don't mess with your brother's girl. You don't tear down your own blood just to prove a point. But Jake never believed in lines. Not when it came to me. I'm not proud of what I did next, but in that moment, I completely lost it. The betrayal, the smugness, the way they sat there so casually like they hadn't just destroyed my life, it all hit me at once. I don't even remember what I yelled, just that my voice was shaking with rage. My hands were clenched so tight my nails dug into my palms, but it wasn't enough. I needed to do something, so I swiped my arm across the table, knocking over their fancy bottle of wine, some overpriced crap Jake probably bought with company money. Glass shattered, red wine spilled across the table like blood, and suddenly the whole restaurant was staring. Jake shot up from his seat, acting all indignant, like I was the problem here. He stepped toward me, running his mouth about how I was overreacting, how Sarah had chosen him, like that made it okay. Something in me just snapped. I lunged at him, shoving him so hard he stumbled into a chair. For a second, he actually looked scared. But before I could do anything else, the staff was between us, pulling me back, telling me to calm down, like I was the one who had started this. And Sarah? She didn't flinch, didn't defend me, didn't even look guilty. She just sat there, arms crossed, lips pressed in that irritated way she did when I forgot to take the trash out. Like I was ruining her evening, like this wasn't my entire life crashing down around me. That's when it hit me. She wasn't sorry. Neither of them were. I left and drove home. Couldn't even think straight. Lumi knew something was wrong the second I walked in. She's scary smart like that. Just followed me around the house meowing while I paced and tried to figure out what to do. Sarah didn't come home that night, or the next night, or ever again actually. Went straight to Jake's place. Guess they'd been planning this for a while. The next day I got these texts that I still have saved, because sometimes I need to remind myself I'm not crazy. Jake, look man, these things happen. Sarah and I have a real connection. You're my brother and all, but you gotta admit she deserves better than your basic 9-to-5 life. No hard feelings? Sarah, I was going to tell you eventually. Jake and I just clicked. He has ambition, you know. Goals. All you care about is your little programming job and that cat. I need more than that. Then they both started calling and texting, trying to explain how they didn't mean for this to happen, and how sometimes love just finds you, and all this other BS. Jake even had the nerve to say, bros before hoes doesn't apply when it's true love, right? I didn't respond to any of it. Just sat on my couch with Lumi in my lap, trying to process how my life had just completely fallen apart. The worst part wasn't that I lost Sarah. It wasn't even that Jake had her. It was that I felt small, like I'd let this happen, like I wasn't enough, not for Sarah, not for my own family. And that feeling? That burned more than anything. The next few weeks were a mess. Sarah came by when I was at work and took a bunch of her stuff. She tried to take Lumi too, but my neighbor, shout out to Mrs. Chen, real MVP, saw what was happening and called me. I rushed home and Sarah was literally trying to get Lumi into a carrier while my cat was having none of it. I lost it again. Told Sarah she could take whatever else she wanted, but Lumi was my cat. Her anniversary gift to me, registered in my name, all vet records in my name. She actually tried to argue that she picked Lumi out, so technically the cat was hers. Yeah, no, that was my line in the sand. Meanwhile, Jake kept showing up at my work, trying to explain things, saying stuff like, "You'll thank me later," and Sarah was always meant for someone like me. Someone like him. What does that even mean? A lying, cheating dirtbag who steals his brother's wife? The worst part? Some of my family actually took their side. Mom was upset but kept saying stuff like, "Well, you know how Jake is." Like that made it okay. Dad was more concerned about how this would affect the business than how I was doing. Only my sister Katie straight up told Jake he was dead to her. But even with Katie in my corner, I wasn't prepared for what came next. The divorce was a complete nightmare. Sarah hired this aggressive lawyer who tried to take everything, wanted half my savings, my car, which I bought before we even met, and even tried to argue she deserved money for contributing to my career growth because she supported me emotionally while I got promotions. Like, what? The worst part was how they tried to get Lumi. Sarah's lawyer actually argued in court that since Sarah picked out Lumi, she had emotional ownership, or some garbage like that. The judge shut that down real quick when I showed all the vet records, registration papers, and proof that Lumi was a gift to me. Should have seen Sarah's face when she realized she couldn't take my cat. First time her perfect little act cracked. Jake was there at every court meeting, sitting right behind Sarah like some kind of bodyguard in his expensive suits. He kept trying to talk to me in the hallways, saying stuff like, "Come on, man, let's be reasonable here," and "You're still my brother, we can work this out." Like he actually thought I'd want anything to do with him after what he did. While all this was happening, they started posting all over Instagram and Facebook about their amazing love story and how sometimes the heart wants what it wants. Jake even posted this long thing about how true love means taking risks and tagged Sarah in it. Made me want to throw my phone across the room. Lumi actually knocked it out of my hands once when I was getting too worked up reading their stuff, like she knew it wasn't good for me. The divorce finally got settled after 2 months of back and forth. I kept the house. I bought it before marriage with my own savings, my car, and obviously Lumi. Sarah got her car and whatever she'd already taken from the house. She tried to argue for more, but her lawyer finally told her she didn't have a case. Here's where it starts getting good, though. Remember how Jake worked at Dad's construction company, handling all the finances? Well, right after the divorce was final, they posted all these vacation photos from the Maldives. The funny thing? Dad had been noticing some weird numbers in the company accounts. Nothing major at first, just little things that didn't add up. But these vacation posts made him look closer. Why? Because the trip they were bragging about cost more than Jake's yearly salary. Meanwhile, I was actually doing okay. I stopped visiting the family house. I focused on work, got a promotion because turns out when you're not dealing with a cheating wife and backstabbing brother, you can actually get stuff done. Lumi and I got into this routine. Morning cuddles, work from home some days. She loves lying on my keyboard during Zoom meetings. Evening walks around the neighborhood where she follows me like a dog. My sister Katie started coming over more too. She's the only one in the family who completely cut Jake off. She and Lumi became best buddies. Pretty sure my cat likes her better than me sometimes. Katie would bring over takeout and we'd just hang out, her playing with Lumi while telling me all the family gossip I was missing. That's when we started hearing stuff about Jake at work. Nothing concrete at first, just whispers about numbers not matching up. Missing receipts, weird transfers. Dad wasn't saying anything, but Katie noticed he was staying late at the office a lot, having meetings with accountants. Sarah wasn't looking so happy in their social media posts anymore either. The designer clothes posts slowed down, the fancy dinner pics stopped. Jake was still posting about living large and success mindset, but something seemed off. Then one day, while I was working from home, I got this call from Dad. His voice was different, serious in a way I'd never heard before. "Family meeting tomorrow," he said. "Your brother will be there." I tried to say no, but Dad cut me off. This isn't a request. And trust me, you want to be there for this. I really didn't want to go. Hadn't been to my parents' house since Jake and Sarah announced their engagement 3 months after my divorce was final. Yeah, they moved that fast. But Dad wasn't taking no for an answer. That morning was weird. Lumi somehow knew something was up. She wouldn't leave me alone while I was getting ready, kept following me around meowing. Walking into that house was, man, I don't know how to describe it. You know that feeling when you're about to get into a fight and your whole body is just tensed up? Like that, but worse. Jake's stupid Mercedes was in the driveway, the one he always bragged about, parked crooked like he'd been in a hurry. They were already there when I walked in. Jake and Sarah sitting on the couch like they owned the place. Jake in another expensive suit, Sarah decked out in designer everything. The second I walked in, Jake started with his usual crap. Hey, ugly, still driving that Toyota? He smirked. His fiancée added, how's the cat? Still your only companion? Real mature, right? I clenched my jaw, inhaling deeply through my nose. I had spent years preparing for this moment, convincing myself that if I ever saw them again, I wouldn't let them get to me, that I had grown beyond their petty jabs. But I was about to get up and leave because it didn't feel right, when Dad walked in. Now, you gotta understand my dad. He's not a loud guy, doesn't yell or anything. But when he wants attention, you shut up. He's got this way of just commanding a room. He sat down at his desk, the same desk where he used to help us with homework when we were kids, and pulled out this thick folder. Just set it there between us all. Nobody said anything for a minute. Then Dad looked straight at Jake and said, want to tell me about the Anderson contract? Jake's face did this weird thing, like he tried to keep smirking but couldn't quite manage it. What about it? Dad pulled out some papers. Interesting numbers here. Contract was for $2.4 million, but our books only show $1.8 million received. Want to explain that? Sarah shifted in her seat. Jake waved his hand like it was nothing. Probably just a clerical error. I'll have accounting look into it. Already did, Dad said. Started laying out more papers. Just like I looked into the Wilson project, and about 20 other contracts over the past year. The room got really quiet. Jake's face was doing that twitchy thing it does when he's nervous. Sarah was clutching her designer purse so hard. You really thought I wouldn't notice? Dad asked. He wasn't yelling. Almost wish he had been. This calm voice was way worse. You thought you could steal from your own family? Jake tried to laugh it off. Dad, come on. This is ridiculous. I've made this company more money than... By stealing from it? Dad cut him off. By creating fake accounts? By skimming money from every major contract? He pulled out his laptop, turned it around. By paying for your lifestyle with company funds? The screen showed all these transactions. The Maldives trip, Sarah's shopping sprees, Jake's Mercedes payments, all paid for with company money through some complicated system of fake accounts and doctored invoices. Sarah started to say something, but Dad held up his hand. Oh, I know about your involvement too. The separate account in your name? The one getting regular transfers from our business accounts? Yeah, found that too. I just sat there watching it all unfold. Part of me wanted to laugh. All those times Jake bragged about his financial genius and business skills, turned out he was just stealing from Dad the whole time. Jake tried one more time. Dad, I can explain everything. We can work this out. The company's doing better than ever. I leaned back in my chair, watching him sweat through his overpriced suit. This was the guy who stole my wife? The guy who spent years looking down on me? I let out a small chuckle, shaking my head. You thought you were the man, huh? Funny how that worked out. Jake's face twitched like he wanted to say something, but he had nothing. Because for the first time in his life, there was no way to talk his way out of it. Because of the contracts you didn't steal from? Dad asked. Then he picked up another paper. But we're not done. Want to tell me about Mom's medical fund? Now, quick background. Our mom passed away a few months before Jake and Sarah started their thing. She'd been sick for a while, needed lots of expensive treatments. Dad had set up this special fund for her care, was putting like $5,000 a month into it. Jake was supposed to handle all the payments since he was so good with money. Dad pulled out these bank statements, showed how all that money that was supposed to be for Mom's care, never made it to the hospital. Instead, it went straight into Jake's personal accounts. While Mom was struggling in the hospital, Jake was using her medical money to buy himself fancy suits and take Sarah on expensive dates. I felt sick, like physically sick. The affair was bad enough. But this? Using Mom's medical money? That's like a whole different level of messed up. Jake started stammering, trying to make excuses. There was a mix-up with the accounts. I was going to pay it back. The treatments weren't working anyway. Sarah just sat there, her face getting whiter and whiter. Guess she didn't know about this part. Or maybe she did and just didn't care. Hard to tell with her. Dad wasn't done, though. He pulled up security camera footage on his laptop from some fancy hotel downtown. Timestamp showed it was from the night Mom. You know, there's Jake and Sarah all dressed up, laughing, dancing, while Mom was in the hospital, while I was sitting with her, while Dad was trying to reach Jake to tell him to come say goodbye. The footage was like a minute long, but felt like forever. When it ended, nobody said anything for what felt like hours. I felt sick into my stomach. I couldn't believe how far my brother would go in his betrayal. Then, Jake tried one last time. Dad, come on. I'm your son. Your successful son. The one who stole from his dying mother? Dad asked. His voice was so quiet it was scary. The one who embezzled from the family business? That successful son? Then Dad picked up this other envelope. The one he'd had on his desk the whole time. This is my will, he said. Want to know what's in it? Jake tried to smile, but it looked wrong. Like his face wasn't working right. Dad, let's not be dramatic. We can work this out. I'll pay everything back. Everything goes to your brother, Dad said. Just like that. The company, the house, all of it. Sarah jumped up then. You can't do that. We'll fight it. We'll get lawyers. Dad actually laughed. Not a happy laugh. More like a go ahead and try laugh. You mean the lawyers I already talked to? The ones who have copies of all the evidence? The FBI agents who are very interested in all this fraud? Jake's face went from red to white so fast it was almost funny. Sarah started doing this weird breathing thing, like she couldn't get enough air. You're bluffing, Jake said, but his voice was shaking. You wouldn't do this to your own son? Dad stood up. He's not a tall guy, but somehow he seemed huge right then. You did this to yourself. Both of you did. Now get out of my house. Sarah grabbed her purse and ran, like literally ran out the door. Jake just sat there for a minute, like he couldn't believe what was happening. Then he looked at me, actually tried to say something, but Dad cut him off. If you ever come near this family again, Dad said, I'll make sure you spend the next 20 years in prison. Now get out. Jake left. I stayed sitting there, trying to process everything. Dad just started putting all the papers back in their folders, calm as could be, like he hadn't just destroyed Jake's whole fake life in less than an hour. When I got home that night, Lumi was waiting by the door like she always does. Jumped right into my lap when I sat down, purring like crazy. I felt somehow my rights are coming back, but the fallout was harsh. The first thing that changed was Jake's job, obviously. Dad didn't just fire him. He had the company lawyers report everything to the authorities. Turns out stealing company money and messing with medical funds is pretty illegal. Who knew, right? Jake tried to play it off at first, kept posting on LinkedIn about exciting new opportunities and time for a change. But everyone at the company knew what really happened. Word gets around fast in the construction business, and Dad didn't try to hide why Jake was gone. The Mercedes disappeared first. Guess when you're buying cars with stolen money, the bank doesn't let you keep them. Sarah posted this long rant on Facebook about how they were choosing to simplify their lifestyle and how material things don't matter when you have true love. Yeah, sure. Their fancy house was next. They'd bought it right after getting together, way bigger than they could actually afford, but Jake had been stealing enough to cover it. Now, bank took it back. They had to move into some small apartment across town. The real fun started when the FBI got involved. Remember all that evidence Dad had? Yeah, turned out the feds were very interested in how Jake had been moving money around. They showed up at his new apartment with a search warrant and everything. My sister Katie, still the best sister ever, works at a coffee shop near their apartment and saw the whole thing. Said Jake was trying to argue with the FBI agents while Sarah just stood there crying. But she got it all on video. Not posting it here for legal reasons, but man, watching Jake try to explain why he had all these fake company documents in his apartment was pretty satisfying. Their friends started disappearing too. All those people who'd sided with them during the affair, who'd posted supportive comments about their true love, suddenly they were nowhere to be found. Funny how people disappear when you can't buy them expensive dinners anymore. About a month after everything went down, Sarah suddenly reached out, sending this long, rambling message about how she never knew about the stealing and was just as much a victim as anyone. By then, word had gotten around that I was named in Dad's will, inheriting a significant share of the business. And suddenly, the same woman who had torn my life apart wanted to talk. She didn't say it outright, but the subtext was obvious. I messed up, but maybe we can work things out? I didn't even bother responding, but I did send her a picture of Lumi sleeping on my desk at the company office. Yeah, Dad made me head of finance after Jake left. My cat's living a better life than both of them now, and honestly, that feels like perfect justice. But fate? Fate had its own sense of humor. A few days later, I ran into her at a coffee shop downtown, except I wasn't alone. I was with someone new, and she was everything Sarah wasn't. Sarah froze when she saw us. Her eyes flicked between me and the woman laughing at something I said, and for the first time since she left, she looked unsure. I made eye contact with her, held it for just a second, then turned back to my date like she didn't exist. That's when I knew. She finally got it. She wasn't special. She was just a mistake I grew past. Then Jake got arrested 2 weeks ago. Looking at serious time, like decades. His lawyer keeps trying to make deals, but the evidence is pretty solid. Turns out Jake wasn't as smart with computers as he thought. The FBI found everything. Sarah filed for divorce the day after Jake's arrest, posted this whole thing on Facebook about being betrayed and how she was healing from trauma. Conveniently forgot to mention all the designer stuff she bought with stolen money. She's moved back in with her parents. Karma's funny like that. About 2 weeks after Jake went to jail, I got this call from a number I didn't recognize. Almost didn't answer it, but something told me I should. It was from the county jail. Jake's voice was different. Gone was that smug, better-than-you tone. He sounded small, broken even. First thing he said was, "I really messed up, didn't I?" I just sat there, petting Lumi who was in my lap as usual, trying to figure out what to say. Finally went with, "Yeah, you did." That's when he started crying. Actually crying. Said he was sorry, that he never meant for things to go this far, that he just got caught up in trying to prove he was successful. Started talking about mom, how he thinks about her every night in his cell. I let him talk. Pretty sure he'd been practicing this speech for days. When he finally finished, you know what I said? The same thing he said to me that night at Romano's. "Well, this is awkward." Then I hung up. His lawyer called the next day. Tried to convince me to speak up for Jake at his sentencing. Said something about family bonds and second chances. I just laughed and hung up again. Dad's lawyer says Jake's looking at 15 to 20 years minimum. The fraud stuff was bad enough, but stealing from mom's medical fund? That's what really got the prosecutors angry. Turns out judges don't like it when you steal money meant for your dying mother's care. Sarah tried to play innocent at first. Changed her last name back, deleted all their photos together, told everyone who'd listen that she had no idea about the stealing. But the FBI found emails where she was helping Jake move money around. Her trial's next month, and from what the lawyers say, she's not looking at a fun time either. Meanwhile, my life's actually gotten pretty good. The company's doing better than ever. Amazing what happens when nobody's stealing millions from it. Dad's been teaching me everything about running things, and turns out I actually like it. Numbers make sense when they're real. Bought a new house too. Nothing crazy fancy like Jake and Sarah's place, but it's perfect for me and Lumi. It has this huge window in the living room that she loves. She spends hours watching birds and judging me for not catching them for her. Life's been good though. I've even started dating again. Nothing too serious yet, but it's nice to be with someone who doesn't come with betrayal and a hidden agenda. Katie, still the best sister ever, comes over all the time with her kids, and my niece is obsessed with Lumi, always bringing her new toys and treats. Lumi pretends she's too good for them, but then plays with everything the second they leave. Classic cat move. Dad's doing great. Actually smiles more now that all the drama's over. He's talking about retiring soon, letting me take over completely. Says the company needs young blood who actually understands ethics. Pretty sure he was making a dig at Jake there. Mom would have liked how things turned out, I think. She always said honesty was more important than success. Guess she was right about that. Like she was about most things. I still think about everything sometimes. About how Jake and Sarah thought they were so smart, so above everyone else. About how they treated me like I was nothing because I was happy with a normal life. About all the times they made me feel small. But sitting here in my office, watching Lumi chase a sunbeam across my desk while I run the company Jake always bragged about carrying, I realized something. I won. Not by cheating or stealing or hurting people, just by being myself and doing things right. Sometimes the best revenge is just living well and having a cat who thinks you're the greatest person in the world, even if all you do is bring her treats and clean her litter box. Edit. Thanks for all the awards and support. Lumi says thanks too. Actually, she didn't. She's asleep on my keyboard making typing this really hard. Edit 2. No, I won't share Sarah's social media or Jake's jail info. They're not worth the drama. Edit 3. And because everyone keeps asking, yes, Lumi is still the real boss of the company. She attended her first board meeting last week, slept through the whole thing but still made better decisions than Jake ever did. Story 6. My wife recently told me she's expecting a baby. The twist? I know I can't be the dad because, well, I'm unable to have kids. Despite that shocker, I decided to just go with the flow. We tied the knot about 2 years back after being together for 3 years. She was really into the idea of getting married, way more than me, but I went along with it to make her happy. Then, about a year ago, she was all about starting a family, so we gave it a shot. Trying for a baby turned out to be super tough, and it was rough on me, especially mentally. Things got so intense that I decided to get checked out. Meanwhile, my wife started acting out big time, which made the whole situation even harder to handle. A couple of days after getting tested, the doc hits me with the news. I'm sterile. That was a huge blow. Even though the whole baby thing wasn't my idea to begin with, I'd warmed up to the thought of being a dad. Finding out I couldn't be one was just crushing. And just when I thought things couldn't get any worse, I was dreading telling my wife the truth. Given how she'd been acting, I was really worried about how she'd take it. I was steeling myself to break the news to her, but then she drops her own bombshell on me. Just 4 days after finding out I was sterile, she comes to me saying she's got big news. So there I was, absolutely floored when my wife hits me with the news that she's pregnant. My mind was racing because for a split second, I thought she had somehow figured out that I can't have kids. But nope, she was just super excited to tell me we were going to have a baby. Inside, I was a complete mess. But on the outside, I had to slap on a smile and pretend to be just as thrilled, not wanting to give her any reason to suspect something was off. But man, the very next day, I was back at the doctor's office, getting myself checked out again, because I needed to be 100% sure that I wasn't the father due to my sterility. And just like before, the test confirmed my fears. I'm indeed sterile. This pretty much turned my world upside down because it meant that the only logical explanation was my wife was seeing someone else behind my back. The whole idea of her getting some kind of fertility treatment without me knowing was out of the question. Those treatments cost an arm and a leg, and I'm the one who handles our finances. There's no way she could have afforded that without coming to me for the money. So, the thought of her cheating started to eat away at me. It was such a bizarre and painful idea that I kind of just froze up. I didn't know what to do. Meanwhile, my wife was on cloud nine, planning this huge party to announce her pregnancy to the world. Here I was, feeling like I was falling apart on the inside, but I had to keep up appearances and act all happy and supportive on the outside. I had to keep this whole mess under wraps. It was way too personal and embarrassing to even think about sharing with my family or anyone else, really. I couldn't bring myself to confront my wife about my suspicions either. Too much time had passed, and part of me was just too scared to face the truth head on. Plus, I was really curious to figure out who the other guy was. The whole situation was just insane. I felt stuck in this weird limbo, trying to act normal while my head was spinning with all these questions and doubts. So here's the scoop. I was seriously wigging out about confronting my wife. I mean, if I just blurted out my suspicions, there was a real risk she'd just up and leave, and then where would I be? Left in the dark, that's where. But man, I didn't have to wait too long to start putting the puzzle pieces together. We threw this big bash to let everyone know about the baby, and it was like the who's who of our lives showed up. Family, buddies, a couple of folks from work, and even the neighborhood crew made the list. Now, this one neighbor of ours, he's not your average Joe. The dude is 27, looks like he walked straight off a fashion runway, and yeah, he's actually trying to make it big in the modeling world. Talk about aiming high, right? He's living with his aunt right across our doorstep, all to be smack dab in the middle of the city buzz, since his own fam is pretty much out in the boonies. My wife, bless her, has always been super kind to him, making sure he and his aunt felt right at home when they first moved in. She'd whip up meals for them, and we've even had the guy over for dinner a few times, chatting up a storm about his modeling gigs and all. Turns out, he's also into literature just like my wife, so you can imagine they hit it off like two peas in a pod right from the get-go. I never really thought much of it. He seemed like a stand-up guy, and I had full trust in my wife. But then, fast forward to our party, and the moment he steps through the door, it's like the atmosphere just shifts. My wife's face lights up in a way that's hard to miss. She zooms over to him, and their hug? Let's just say it wasn't your garden variety friendly hug. It lasted way longer than what you'd expect for a casual, "Hey, good to see ya." Oddly enough, it seemed like I was the only one picking up on this vibe, but it set off all kinds of alarm bells in my head. It was clear as day something was up between them, and now I was on a mission to figure out what that something was. So here's what went down. I made up some story about needing to step out for a bit, pretending I was headed to catch the train. But instead of hitting the road, I sneaked off to our bedroom to have a little snoop session on my wife's laptop. You see, right after she hit me with the news that she was expecting, I managed to have a sneaky peek at her phone while she was catching some Z's. Didn't find anything out of the ordinary then. But getting my hands on her laptop? That was a whole different game. Every time I was hanging around, she was practically glued to that screen, either binge watching something or typing away like she was on a deadline. Curiosity got the better of me more than once, and I'd ask her what she was up to. Quick as a flash, she'd tilt the screen away and hit me with, "Oh, just working on my novel," a line she'd been feeding me for months. I respected her space and genuinely thought she was pouring her heart into some epic story. But with all the weird vibes floating around, I started to suspect that novel was just a smokescreen for whatever was really going on in that laptop. Turns out, getting into her laptop was a breeze. No password, no nothing. After a bit of detective work, I hit the jackpot. A secret email account tucked away from her usual one. I dove into this hidden inbox, and man, was it a goldmine. It was crammed with love notes back and forth between her and our neighbor, the dude who could easily be mistaken for a Greek god or something, given he's trying to break into modeling. The guy wasn't exactly James Bond when it came to keeping things on the DL. His email was basically his name. And right there, in the more recent emails, was the bombshell. She'd told him about the baby. He was clearly not thrilled, looking to hit the eject button, given the sudden ghosting act that followed. But my wife? She wasn't about to let him slip away that easily. Then came the gut punch in email where she's talking about hitting up a lawyer friend to start divorce proceedings once the baby's born. Talk about a plot twist. I was looking for answers, but man, I wasn't ready for this level of drama. All right, let's rewind and dive into this whole mess. So, my wife was really pushing for us to have a baby, right? But here's the kicker. The whole baby-making campaign wasn't about us or some cozy family picture. Nah, it was all about setting herself up for a sweet deal. She had this whole plan mapped out in her head where she'd bag alimony and child support from me post-divorce. Then, with that cash in her pocket, she'd swoop off with our neighbor, Mr. Model in the Making, and live out her so-called happily ever after. Finding that out by stumbling on an email? Yeah, felt like getting sucker punched in the stomach. And that queasy feeling? It just loves to make encores every time I replay that discovery in my head. But no way was I going to let that slide and wallow in self-pity. I snapped into action, took a ton of pics of that damning email with my phone, and slipped her laptop back where it belonged, acting like nothing happened. The cheating part? Honestly, it stung less than the whole elaborate con job she was pulling. Stepping out is one thing, but plotting to have a kid with me as part of some grand scam to finance her dream life with Loverboy? That's a whole new level of twisted. And let me tell you, my wife could give those Hollywood stars a run for their money with the act she was putting on. I hadn't smelled a rat until then. The more I thought about it, her being all sunshine and rainbows started to look downright eerie. But as boiling mad as I was, I decided to play the long game. I wasn't about to let her off the hook easy. She needed to get a taste of her own medicine, feel a bit of the sting of betrayal and frustration that had become my constant companions since uncovering her little scheme. So call me crazy, but I doubled down on the Husband of the Year act. For the next 9 months, I was Mr. Supportive, the ideal soon-to-be dad, sticking by her side. Every lie she told, every fake smile she threw my way, just added fuel to my resolve. I was all in, attending every prenatal checkup, making sure she was on top of her vitamin game, basically nailing the supportive partner role. Then, D-Day arrived. She started her labor. Despite the whirlwind of emotions and the nagging voice in my head reminding me of the whole charade, I shoved all that aside. I took a deep breath, stepped up, and drove her to the hospital, all by myself. It was game time, and even though I was a bundle of nerves, I was determined to see this through to the end. I made sure to give her parents the heads up about the hospital run, but deliberately left my own fam out of the loop. Honestly, I just couldn't deal with the thought of them being there if things went sideways and got all kinds of dramatic. Her folks were an hour's drive away, which meant we had a bit of a grace period, just me and her. And man, did I have a plan for that alone time. Right after we got her settled into the hospital room, I threw her for a loop. I acted all nonchalant and mentioned I was going to hit up our neighbor, Mr. Handsome Neighbor, to come by and support her. The look on her face was something else. She was totally flustered, trying to brush off the idea, saying something about not wanting some stranger around during such an intimate moment. That's when I decided to drop the bomb. I showed her the cold, hard evidence of my fertility test, proof that I couldn't father a child. And to add to the drama, I whipped out the divorce papers I had filed just before her due date. She looked through all the paperwork, completely dumbfounded. So I broke it down for her, spelled out that there was zero chance I was the father of her baby, and then laid out the juicy part about the emails I'd found in her secret account. Watching the realization hit her was like watching a live drama unfold. The look on her face? Absolutely unforgettable. But I didn't stick around to savor the moment. I just walked out, leaving her to marinate in the mess. Next up, I made a quick call to our neighbor, letting him know his maybe baby mama was in labor. Didn't even wait for his reaction. I just hung up and made a beeline for my car. I waited out in the parking lot just long enough to see her dad's car pull in, and then I was out of there faster than you can say soap opera twist. I even went full spy mode and turned off my phone, not in the mood for calls or being tracked down, and drove straight to a motel a decent distance away. I had the foresight to pack some essentials a few weeks back, stashing them in my car, ready for a moment exactly like this. So there I was, holed up in a motel room, far from the eye of the storm, with everything I needed to start figuring out my next moves. After the whole hospital drama, I spent the rest of the day just zoning out in front of the TV, knocking back a few beers, and doing pretty much anything to keep my mind off the craziness. That night, I actually managed to sleep pretty well, feeling like a huge weight had been lifted off my shoulders now that I was through with playing the part. The next morning, feeling a bit more like myself, I decided it was time to face the music and switched my phone back on. As expected, it blew up with notifications, tons of messages from my wife and the neighbor guy. I didn't even bother checking those, just the thought of it drained me. However, I did notice some messages from my folks and my brother. Looks like my wife tried to get in touch with them when I went MIA. So I figured the least I could do was give them a call back, let them know I was okay, and head over to explain this whole mess. I even suggested they get my brother over so I could lay everything out on the table for all of them at once. When I got to my parents' place, my brother was already there. They all had this mix of confusion and annoyance on their faces. Understandable, given from their point of view, I'd just skipped out on the birth of what they thought was my kid, robbing them of the chance to be there for the grandchild's arrival too. But I took the time to spell out the entire saga for them, from start to finish, including why I did what I did. By the end of my tale, they were all just sitting there, kinda stunned. I braced myself for a storm of questions or even some heat for how I handled things, but it never came. The only thing my dad managed to say was that he hoped things wouldn't get any messier than they already were. Nobody else really had much to say after that, so it seemed like they were at least trying to understand where I was coming from. That catch-up happened a few days ago. Since then, my family's been pretty quiet about the whole thing. On the other hand, my wife's been laying it on thick, accusing me of totally ruining her big moment of becoming a mom for the first time. Ever since I bailed from that whole hospital scene, my phone's been blowing up. My wife's been on a mission, calling and texting nonstop, trying to get a hold of me, but I've just been ghosting her. And then, get this, even the neighbor dude shot me a text a few hours back. He's all like, my wife's super upset, and we should try to put our beef to the side for her sake. Maybe even hash things out. I mean, seriously? The nerve of these folks, acting like I'm just throwing a fit over some small-time drama. And the guy didn't stop there. He drops in his text that, plot twist, my wife supposedly started catching feelings for me again while she was pregnant. Like, out of nowhere, she's supposedly all about giving us another shot. Yeah, right. If that's the case, then why is he still lurking around, right? It just doesn't add up. Honestly, I can't help but laugh at how they think I'm gonna fall for this. Sure, my wife's mad, but what am I supposed to do about that? It's not just about her being mad, though. She's ticked off because I've been onto their game from the jump, but still played the devoted husband role. She's throwing accusations my way, saying I've been deceiving her by sticking around during the pregnancy, all the while knowing the kiddo isn't mine, and that she's been sneaking around with Mr. Model next door. It's like they expect me to just forget everything and come running back because they say so. But come on, after all that's gone down, they really think I'm naive enough to buy into this sudden change of heart? It's pretty clear they're scrambling, trying to paint me as the bad guy for not engaging in their little soap opera. But honestly, at this point, it's just more of the same drama, just a different day. Update 1. So, it's been about a week since the baby arrived, and I've been camped out in a hotel room this whole time. I haven't made any moves to go see my wife, and honestly, I don't have any plans to. She keeps blowing up my phone with texts and calls, but I'm not sure why she's even bothering. I thought I made it crystal clear that I'm not up for chatting or listening to whatever she's got to say. I haven't gone as far as blocking her number yet, but I did block the neighbor after he decided to chime in, trying to guilt trip me into going back to her, talking about how she's still holding on to some hope. I'm convinced the only reason he's hanging around, pushing for me to patch things up, is so she can scrape together something from the divorce, like alimony or whatever, especially since they're both pretty much not bringing in any dough. Look, my wife chose to be a stay-at-home partner, which was cool by me. I respected that choice. It's not like she was just home doing nothing. But, yeah, turns out she was also stepping out on me, which is a deal breaker. And for the record, it wasn't me who pushed her to quit her job. Back when we were just dating and she was working, I was all for her career. She was the one who wanted to stop working and focus on the home front. I didn't object because I was doing all right financially, and it was her call. I'm banking on my lawyer being able to dodge the alimony bullet once we lay out the whole cheating scenario, which shouldn't be too hard to prove. Fingers crossed. As for the neighbor, the guy's still scrapping by, trying to land some decent modeling gigs. Figuring out how he's going to cover his bills, let alone support my wife and a baby, is going to be a circus, especially on their combined non-income. Well, good luck to them is all I can say. I'm just relieved to be stepping away from this dumpster fire, ready to wash my hands of the whole thing. No alimony, no nothing, not even a sliver of my attention. I'm really hoping my wife gets the message and doesn't drag this whole divorce thing out. But knowing how she sometimes doesn't think things through, I wouldn't be surprised if she tries to fight it. That said, I'm ready for whatever she throws my way. I've got all the evidence I need tucked safely on my phone and backed up on my laptop. Those emails from her secret account are going nowhere. Even if she gets smart and deletes her account, those screenshots are staying put with me. So I'm not sweating it. If push comes to shove, I might even agree to pay her some alimony, just to get her out of my life for good. She ought to feel lucky, honestly. I've given her plenty of time to pack up and leave our place on her own terms. I had to kick her out, though, since the house is in my name. I'm just crossing my fingers that all this mess will be over soon. And would you believe it? Turns out, I was spot on about her not having the best judgment. She wasn't happy with the settlement I proposed, which, by the way, was more than fair, just covering what she'd put in during our marriage. I don't know what she's expecting to happen here, but hey, if she thinks she can get more, good luck to her. She dropped me a message yesterday saying she'd left the house. I was kind of relieved, thinking she might have gone back to her folks or something, but nope. I found out today she just moved right across the street into the neighbor's place. So now, I've got the pleasure of seeing her and her new beau's faces every day. Great, just what I needed. At one point, I actually thought about moving back into a hotel instead of staying in my own house because the situation was getting really uncomfortable. But then I thought, hey, this is my home. I have every right to be here. I'm not going to leave just because things are getting tough. I did wonder, though, why my wife didn't just go stay with her parents. That would have made more sense, especially since staying with our neighbor could mess up her side of the divorce case even more. It seemed like she was just making everything harder for herself. But I didn't spend too much time worrying about it. As I was going through a ton of messages I hadn't read yet, I found one from my wife's dad among them. I hadn't replied to a bunch of texts from different people over the last few days, so I almost missed his message. His message was really long. He was saying how sorry he was about what his daughter, my wife, had done. He told me they didn't agree with her actions at all. Hearing this from her dad meant a lot to me. It made me feel like my feelings were understood. I was so touched that I almost started crying, but I managed to hold back the tears. He even said he was cutting her off financially because she told him she wanted to fight the divorce. Nothing my wife was doing seemed to make any sense to me. It all looked like it was going to blow up in her face eventually. I mean, she had to know that, right? Unless she's either not thinking clearly or she's planning something really sneaky. I hope it's not the sneaky thing, but knowing her, I wouldn't be surprised. So, she's basically the worst. Living like this is for sure going to cause a bunch of problems. I bet they're going to try and mess with me, make me feel bad or jealous. But I've made up my mind to not let them bother me. I know they're just looking for ways to use my reactions against me. Despite all this drama, I'm actually saving a ton of money by not having to pay for another place to live. It's been a month since we started talking about how to split everything in the divorce, and it's not looking good for my wife. I've managed to show that she was cheating on me. And get this, she even made it easier for me by moving in with the guy she was accused of cheating with. So there's no doubt I'm right about her cheating. She tried to flip the script by claiming I was an alcoholic, which she said made me unable to have kids. She argued that's why she cheated, because I supposedly became mean and bitter when we were trying to have a baby. But that lie fell apart really fast. Everyone knows I stopped drinking last year when we decided to try for a kid, and I haven't had a drink since then. Honestly, I have no idea why she thought her plan would work. It was a pretty bad move on her part. It seems like she was just throwing out anything she could think of because her original plan flopped big time. Now she's too caught up in being a mom to try and come up with any clever schemes. Plus, the guy she's with isn't exactly the brightest, so there they are. So both me and my wife knew that her chances of getting any money from me after the divorce were pretty much gone. I think she must have told her boyfriend about this because just a few days ago, he kicked her out of his place in a really mean way, along with her baby. Yep, there was a lot of yelling and screaming coming from their house that I could hear. And then, in just a few minutes, I saw my wife and her little boy being pushed out onto the street while the guy was yelling really awful stuff at her, calling her all sorts of terrible names. I was watching this mess from my living room window. The moment I saw him pushing my wife out the door while she was holding the baby, I knew I had to do something. I couldn't stand by and watch a little baby get caught up in adult problems. By the time I got over there, he had already slammed the door in their faces, leaving my wife and her son crying outside. I picked up the baby and took my wife's hand, leading them back to my place across the street. Then I called her dad to come and pick her up, which he did in about an hour. He thanked me a lot for helping them out during that hour. My wife was crying a lot, almost as much as the baby, so I ended up trying to calm them both down. I thought about calling the police, but she begged me not to because she didn't want any more drama. She kept saying sorry for everything that had happened, telling me she was so desperate to be with the guy she loved that she lost her self-respect and morals. She said she was really sorry for it all, and that she was ready to accept whatever came next, without trying to fight it anymore. This means the divorce could be settled quicker, which is something positive, I guess. I hope she decides to take legal action against the guy for how he treated her and starts to heal from all this. But at least I know I did the right thing by helping them, and I don't have any regrets about it.